Welcome everyone to the Joel Martin Mastery Podcast. I'm a networking expert and the author of the upcoming book, No Strangers, How to Build Community, One Relationship at a Time. My why is the pursuit of mastery, and the goal of this podcast is to lock arms on a lifelong mission of daily personal growth to become the best version of ourselves. So let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of the podcast. We have a very special guest. He is a health and wellness coach. He is a strength and conditioning specialist. He's a Reiki master, as well as a holistic healer. That is a mouthful, but that's how talented and qualified this guy is. So welcome to the podcast, my good friend, Mr. Dominic Amici. Dom, what's life like right now in sunny California? Tell me, because I'm in cold Ottawa, Canada here. It's minus 26, which is no bueno.
It is no bueno, Joel. It's the reason I moved here 23 years ago, because it's, as you can see, the sun coming in from the side window here. It's about be close to 70 degrees today. And you said minus doesn't work for me, especially coming from upstate New York myself and going to college in Buffalo. Went from cold to colder, came out here 23 years later. Come on out, brother.
You made the right decision.
Absolutely. Never second guessed it, never looked back. And it's just, it's a world of opportunity out here in La La Land.
I see your updates on social media. You're walking the beach, sun on your face, by the water. Life is good, living the dream. And, they say, what is it? Jealousy? Not jealousy. Comparison is the thief of joy. Sometimes I get a little jelly when I see these updates. I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's more for inspiration and let people know that anything is possible. We're not trees. We're not planted in one spot and stay there forever. We all have that option and opportunity. Is it hard? Was it hard in the beginning? Absolutely. Was it worth it? Absolutely.
So it was hard starting over again in the new city. Is that what you're saying?
Just starting anything new is always challenging because you don't know where all the pitfalls or the bumps in the road are. But when you have that, when you have that vision and burning desire to leave something, and it's, they talk about burning the bridges or burning the boats and leaving it all behind. I absolutely did that in the beginning. It was like, once I came out here to see what life was like, it just was completely different mindset, completely different vibe. Sunshine every day truly changes a person's personality for the better, and when it's cold and snowing and minus whatever you said again, no thank you.
Yeah, inspirational speaker and best-selling author Robin Sharma likes to say things are hard at the start, they're messy in the middle, and they're beautiful at the end. So that when you said it's hard, when you first do something, when you first move, that reminded me of that quote. So we know each other because we have the same mentor. So that's Mr. Byron Nelson. He happens to also be in LA, closer to you. And what's funny is I just sent him a video. So we had like a record-breaking snowstorm the other day. Like you couldn't leave your parking lot. There was that much snow. Like the snow was higher than the car. So you couldn't, like, just physically, even if you have good tires, you can't go through a snowbank, which is the road. So I took a video and I sent it to, I do this like every few months, sent it to Mr. Nelson. I said, are you sure you don't want to come visit? You don't want to come vacation up in Ottawa, Canada? And he put, and you can hear his voice in this. Sure. He just texted, oh, hell no, but I love you to the moon and back. That was his response. So
I feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mr. Nelson, business mogul, he actually was just awarded with the most played episode of this podcast in 2021. I believe we had something like 21 guests. He finished #1 most played, most popular. I think that was episode number 18. So if anyone wants to go back and check that out. And we know each other from we're both working with him. So building businesses globally in the network marketing space. And I actually have some kind words from Mr. Nelson. So I reached out and you're his personal trainer, right? You're
Yeah.
his fitness guru. You're all these different things, and we'll dive into all those things. But he says Dom is an unshakable character and one of the most reliable hearts on the planet. So that's from Mr. Byron Nelson. So how does it feel getting some kind words from such an iconic figure?
It's awesome. And that's one thing I've always prided myself on is a man of character, and just to show up and do what I told you I was going to do. And that's one thing that, we bonded with right away when we met. He came into 6.5, 7, close to 7 years ago now to train with me. He actually came into my gym in the beginning with a partner and did a little workout on his own, was gone for a while. And then 6 months later, he came back, and I knew nothing about the man other than just his energy, who he was. And we just bonded instantly. I still had no clue what the man did for 6 months, until I talked to one of my great college friends that I played football with and was a huge network marketer. And I'm like, I think I trained someone, in your industry. He's like, who's that? I'm like, Byron Nelson. Have you ever heard of him? He's like, Dom, there's no way you train Byron Nelson. I'm like, 6'4" black dude. He's like, he goes, that's him. And I'm like, he's like, Dom, he's a freaking legend. He's an icon in the industry, not just with his company, but an entire industry of network marketing. I'm like, I could see that. I mean, I knew he was a motivational speaker. He traveled, do some things, with some very top name people. And I just, again, when I connect with a person, I connect with their soul. I connect with who they are as a person and as a soul first. After that, once I find out what they do and who they are, then I'll dive in. I never ask first because it doesn't matter. I really don't care. Money doesn't motivate me in that way. Money doesn't, make me see people different. I've met a lot of people that have $0 and they're most amazing people on the planet. I've met people that have all the money in the world and they're the biggest, not nice person.
Yeah.
Is this PG? What are we doing? PG 13?
You
I'll
could
keep it
drop
clean.
in a
I'll
few
keep it
if
clean.
to get a point across. If you need some
I'll keep it.
vulgarity, you can do
Yeah,
that if
I'll
needed.
keep it as clean as possible. But back to that, just he's been an inspiration in my life and someone like a big brother, but also someone who's way more than that, someone who stretched my vision like no other. For anyone on here that knows Mr. Byron Nelson or Byron or whatever you call him, he is someone you want in your corner and in your life. And I feel, it was a God moment in my life when he came in. And I believe it was a God moment in his life when I came into his life, because as a personal trainer, people get very intimate with you very fast. And it's not, people are like, oh, you're like a barber or like a hairdresser or whatever. They tell you everything. I'm like, yes, but a barber or hairdresser, people typically go 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I'm with people, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a week. And, they really lean on me. And once they really understand, a quote from Mr. Nelson, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And that's always, been a foundation of who I am. I really do care. I really do want to change people's lives and for the better, because the information that I have and that I've been equipped with, and then keep getting, keep expanding on that knowledge base, can help a person. And I've watched it time and time again. And, it's like, again, like our industry of network marketing, when you take someone on and they actually do what you ask them to do or tell them to do to win, and they do it and then they win, there's no better feeling than when you help someone out and make them, feel better. So the same thing with the health and wellness. It's when you give them the prescription of what they need to do and you write it out for them, and then they do it and they come back and they're smiling ear to ear because they feel better. The weight is one thing, losing weight or gaining weight depending on what people are looking to do. Obviously, most are looking to lose weight. It's not just the weight. I always ask them, how do you feel? Do you feel better? Yeah. Do more of that. Why would you not? And, that's one thing that he had taught me from day one is just, it's a journey. It's a ever, not everyone's going to do what you ask them to do. That's okay. That's on them, not on you. As long as you stay true to who you are and you give them your best and you show up for them every time, and that's the thing it is. It's showing up for that person, and it's not about you. It's about them. Not everyone's going to do it the way that you hope and want. It's their journey. And, you just have to be there all along the way and keep helping them up, picking them up. So yeah, we'll talk about him more throughout this. I know it's going to come up, but
yeah, he just has his hand kind of on everything, if he's in your life. I remember Mr. Nelson flying from LA to be a keynote speaker at one of my events around the Toronto area. And I remember him saying, when you meet him, it's like you might like him or you might not like him, but you will always remember him. That's his thing, is kind of just to be memorable more than anything. You'll always remember this handsome 6'4" black dude that made you feel something, whether it was good or bad, or he rubs you the wrong way or the right way. I thought that
absolutely,
was cool.
Absolutely. And in getting to know him very fast, like I said, we fell in love with each other as souls before I knew who he was, or who he knew who I was. But connecting on so many levels right from the get-go. I mean, it was relationships, it was religion, it was business, it was just the way that we carried ourselves. It was actually one of the biggest things was he's a mama's boy. And I know you are. I am just I connect with people who have a strong relationship with their mother, and it's something about it. I don't know. But we connected on that level. Every level, it was just amazing to see a person who's been, who's so strong in so many areas, and like you said, who's memorable. Like when he came in the gym the very first time, I didn't speak to him, but you could feel his energy. Yeah, I mean, I spoke to him, I said hello, whatever, but it was like you could just feel his energy, his laugh, his character, going around saying hello to every single person in the gym, just, making sure everybody, hey, can I get you? Do you need anything? Like, I'm going to the store real quick to get some water. Anybody need anything? It's the little things, that people remember the most, and how you make someone feel is right up there at the top.
Absolutely. So you have kind of a mission statement you live by. So your goal is to help everyone be the best version of themselves, and you help them achieve that through your calm and effective approach to fitness. Why is being calm important? Sometimes you see those crazy people are like, give me 50, you do it. Like they're just too much. Why do you think your demeanor, that calm, supportive energy, how do you think that that's helped you along the way to achieve your level of success in that industry?
Yeah, it's, because you're not always going to have someone there screaming down screaming in your ear, give me 5 more, 10 more, or come on, well, you can do more, you can do more. So from the very beginning, I knew that, people need more of the calm, like demeanor of like, okay, no, I'm really here to help you. I want to hear, and it's the other part too, is the listening part. People want to be heard, and every single person is different, when they come into, my space. I don't know their background. Like I said, with Byron, I didn't know anything about him. I just knew that he came to me for help. He had strict goals that he wanted to achieve. And, I laid it out there for him to what it's going to take. And I told him, I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not someone who's going to, I'm not texting you throughout the day to find out what you're eating or what you've done since you've last seen me. But when I see you tomorrow, I'm going to ask you, what'd you eat? How much cardio did you do? Did you do anything else? What else happened in your day to get you closer to that goal? And I think it really comes back, Joel, is the quarterback in me. So I've been a quarterback since I was about 10 years old,
Hmm.
all the way through college. So it just, you have to have that demeanor of, you know, the calm, but still, you have to bring out that fire when when you need to. But if you're always fire and you're always on, you burn out. So I knew that if I was going to do this forever, um, and really impact people's lives and really be that difference, that you can't, I would burn out, so, and it's more, I've always looked at things as what you can do for life, not just right now, but can you sustain what you're doing for the rest of your life? If you can't, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing. Or I call it, and then what? Okay, that's cool. You're doing this now. And then what? So there's like, whether it's P90X or CrossFit or,
Insanity or any of those things.
insanity, the super high intense, uh, anything that you're doing in life, how long can you sustain that? And if you have a plan for what's next, that's cool. But if not, start thinking about what's next. These crazy diets, the cookie diet, the 500-calorie diet, the starvation diet, the water,
The
whatever,
all meat diet, the
the all meat diet,
paleo, the keto, yeah.
it's just what are you going to do after you're done doing that? Because you can't sustain that. I can't say you can't, most can't, or you're going to get hurt, injured, and then you're going to be right back to where you started or worse, because now you can't exercise. You're not thinking like, oh, I want to eat a salad now, when you're laid up and you're hurt and you're broken, and you want to have your comfort food. You want to go back to what you remember as a child, that made you feel good, and the cakes and the candies so it's more of the longevity approach, I guess.
So with all the people you've worked with, you've found that it's those that make it a lifestyle, that they make a decision that this is who I am, and the person that I am doesn't do those things or doesn't do them frequently, versus the diets, the crash, this and
Right.
that.
Absolutely. It's the one thing I've always coached is, this is for now. Do it for now. Like, I understand, you want ice cream after your dinner because you always had ice cream. For right now, no. Does that mean forever? No. It's when you can get it under control and you can have these things put back into your quote unquote diet. I don't like the word diet, because it shouldn't be a diet. It should be, like you said, a lifestyle change, something that you need to shift to, to have that life that you're looking to have, to be healthy for, as long as we have on this planet. It's all about how you feel, and what you truly, what you are, what you eat. And that's not just a cliche. That truly is. The longer I've been at this, and the more that I've been around people, which is a lot of them, it's like, as soon as I look at them, I see them, I can tell how healthy they are. I already know what they eat. I know how much they exercise. I know whether they like it themselves or not. It's just like, it's that intuition that you start getting, but that all can be shifted with one thing that you said earlier, a decision. It's up to the person. If you make the decision, as we've been taught, the how-to comes. You decide to get married, you don't know how it's going to happen. The how-to comes. You decide to go to college, you don't know how you're going to pay for it, what it's going to look like, where you're going to live. The how-to comes. The same thing with fitness. You decide that, you know what, I'm going to be the healthiest version of myself going forward. That how-to shows up. And
Yeah, there's nothing more powerful than a made up mind, right? It's
that
making
is
the
so true.
decision, and then the world, the universe, bends around that decision. It conspires in your favor.
It sure does. It sure does. And that's not, I learned long ago too, people always poo poo these cliches, and, that's the wrong thing to do. That just means you're not doing them. You should lean into those cliches and really focus on them and pay attention and do them, and your life will change, man. It's so true.
So Dom, we're good friends. So I have a confession. Is it okay? Can I confess something to you?
Of course.
It's deeply personal. So I woke up and did something this morning that is the least congruent thing I could do before speaking to you as a guest. I woke up and within 5 minutes, I ate some birthday cake. That happened this morning. Now, last night, there was a big UFC fight, and I went and watched it with 3 of my high school friends. And because it was my birthday the day before, they bought me a nice high class cake. And the day before that, my actual birthday, I had 3 other friends over. I drank too much. I literally drank once a year. I got a little schmammy pants. I got a little schmammered. Yesterday at the UFC thing, I wasn't feeling great. So I actually didn't eat any of the cake they got me. And this morning I felt a little better. I dove right in, cake in and around my mouth. I then realized who my guest was today, and I thought, oh my God, what have I done? This is the worst way to go into this interview. So I had to share that with you. I had to get that off my chest. What is your response to that?
I'm glad you did. You know what? It's not about what you do some of the times. It's about what you do most of the time. And again, with my clients, I've never once told a client, you can't do that. You can't have that. What are you doing? No, that's on you. And it's not, we can't shame ourselves for that. I've had, I don't eat healthy 100% of the time. I give myself that leeway. And it's really about what do you do next? So don't, now that you've had that in the morning, if you wake up and you have cake, don't think the day's done. You know what I mean? Your body doesn't know days. It doesn't know weeks. It doesn't know months. It doesn't know years. It knows what you've done majority of the time, and it knows what's next. So when you go to lunch because you had the cake and you're like, you know what, I was gonna have a piece of chicken and some vegetable, whatever it is, but since I already had the cake, I'm gonna do the burger and fries, man. I already blew today. No, that's one of the biggest misconceptions people have, is they think because of what they've had that day that the day's done. So you can counteract that with your next few. I always say, when I do something like that, or if I don't even say mess up, but say I'm strict on a plan for my nutrition and I falter. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to string as many good meals in as I possibly can till I have something that's not on my menu per se. And I have ice cream tonight. Okay. That wasn't planned, but people beat themselves up way too much over that. And that's not the way to win at the game of fitness and nutrition and life. Then you throw in a few. If you don't do, lunges or push-ups, do a couple, do 5. All right. So it's almost like, Joel, the, when you put negativity out into the world, when you get cut off on the road and you're like, Jesus, whatever. And then you call them a bad name or you get all frustrated, and then you're like, you know what? No, I'll pray for that person. Maybe he's in a rush. Maybe his wife's giving birth right now. Yeah, whatever it is,
hospital or something.
Whatever. So we don't know what that is, but if you put out, no, I love you. You're awesome. It's cool. So I always try to put out more positive than any of the negative that I put out to counteract, because that energy goes somewhere, whether you believe it or not. Energy is real, right? So it goes somewhere. So that's the same thing with yourself when you do have these, hiccups and you're like, man, why did I do that? But most people do. They spend their time, just wallowing in their discomfort of my stomach. Oh, now I'm fat. Now they start using those negative power words that, no, it's just, that's one time that you ate. Over the next course of, God willing, you have another, 50, 60, 70 years on the planet. You just go to the next.
I've heard advice that if you're having a cheat day or a cheat meal or cheat snack, that you shouldn't be beating yourself up over it. If you're going to have it anyways, you might as well like
enjoy it,
appreciate it, enjoy it, like bless the meal, have like an awareness of it. Oh man, this is delicious. Like, I know it's not healthy, but I've been good the last few days, and it's like, you're already going to eat it. So you shouldn't beat yourself up over it. And I guess the trick is to not let the one cheat snack or meal become a cheat day, or one cheat day become 3 cheat day. That's where people really falter, right? You lose 2 pounds over 7 days, and then you gain 3 pounds over a day or two. And it doesn't seem fair how hard it is to lose weight versus how easy it is to gain weight. Because I've heard it's you have to burn 3,500 calories to lose a pound. So it's like you need to have a deficit of 7,000 calories a week to lose 2 pounds. And it's like, I do that. Like, I set a plan, and then I'll go to my parents for like some good meals and snacks, and I'll gain 3 pounds in one day. Like, it doesn't even make sense. It's not fair, Dom. Who created the calories here? I mean, it doesn't seem right.
Well, it's one of those things too, that back to what you do most of the time versus some of the time. And if we look back, and people that the scale is a lagging indicator of what you've done, the past 2, 3, 4 months, not just today. So most people just look at that, they look at that scale and they're like, oh man, I had a bad day yesterday. No, that was from the previous 3, 4 days. Yesterday was just kind of the icing on the cake for you to really, wrap it around your head. It's not fair. And as far as the weight loss, weight gain, how fast it is to, to gain weight versus lose the weight. And I think one of the, misconceptions people have with all of that is you can't outwork your diet. Meaning, if you have a bad day and you have a bad night or whatever, and you eat a bunch of cake and candy and drinks and whatever, and you go into the gym tomorrow and be like, oh man, I got to get on that. Got to do more cardio. I got to do more cardio because I was bad last night. I got to burn these up. It doesn't work like that. That's actually one of the revelations I believe I had with Byron years back, because he'd come in, I got to do, after we do our workout, there's a side note. There's no one on the planet I've seen work harder than that man in my life. Like, he puts in the time and effort and energy. He should be the most ripped Adonis on the planet. But it goes back into what I was saying about outworking your diet. And I told him
he likes his food. I've seen in a restaurant where he orders like 5 main courses. Like, you would normally get like ribs that comes with a potato and a salad. He would get 5 of those, like, lobster, whatever, chicken, whatever. The man can eat. So,
and it's he won't eat it all at once. He'll eat some, and then he'll bring it home, and then he'll snack on it, and then he doesn't sleep, and he's up, doing a Zoom with Australia in the middle of the night, which is the middle of the day over there. So the man has business across the planet, and someone's always up. So he start nibbling on whatever that is, but then he'll come into the gym and try to do an extra hour or 2 of cardio. And I'm like, you should be ripped by now, man. He's like, I know. And I'm like, you can't outwork your diet. So don't. So do you
think it's like for fitness and how your body looks and feels, do you think it's like 70% the nutrition and 30% the fitness? Like, it's not 50-50.
90%.
90%. Wow.
90% nutrition.
Wow.
90% nutrition.
So you're saying even if someone is at the gym, whatever, 4, 5, 6 days a week for 2 hours, but every meal is McDonald's, the balance isn't going to work.
No, it may work when you're 18, but when you're,
not 18,
probably, I'm saying probably, I see the shift right around the 30th, about right around 30. You can get away with that stuff for so long and everybody's obviously is, their metabolism, their genes are different. What types of workouts you're doing, if you're doing massive, like muscle building or muscle gaining, mass building, you can put in more calories, and because the more muscle you have on your body, the more calories they take and will burn at rest. So that's the cool part about weight training is, and that's why runners and weightlifters, they look different, and their energies, what they eat is obviously different. Where someone who's massively weight training could eat the McDonald's or the bad meals and still look kind of in shape. But a runner, it's like their muscles are like, they're feeding, their muscles become the fuel. So your body either burns carbohydrates, it burns fat, or it burns muscle. You never want it to burn muscle. So if you're not putting in the other two and your calorie deficit, and your body needs energy because you're running another, you're only on mile 6 and you burn through all of your calories and you got 6 more miles to go, it will start actually eating away at your muscle. So it's just, it's one of those unfair things that, the calories in versus calories out don't always equate, but over a longevity of time, that really is the gauge. And like you said, 3,500 calories for 1 pound. That's a lot of time on the treadmill to try to lose 1 pound.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair. So I've had some fitness goals, with all the traveling over the years, building the business on planes every, few weeks and eating out. And so I had gained, 20 plus pounds over a couple of years. And then I made a plan to lose it, and I did lose it, but it took a lot of work and discipline, and the fitness and the nutrition and, meal planning. And I have an app that allows you to count the calories, and you hear advice of whether you should actually count calories or not, like the pros and cons of that. But I've heard that people that actually are on, not, you don't want to say diet, but someone that's trying to lose weight, those that actually track the calories, just because of the awareness, actually in general have better results than those that don't track, just because awareness is like the number one thing in anything you do. You need that awareness. And it's so funny because I'll go, I'll get a medium ice cap from Tim Hortons, and it's 305 calories. And then I'll do an hour walk, and it shows me it's like 281 calories burnt. And you're like, and then you realize how not worth it is for some things. Cause I think, okay, right now I feel like an ice cap. Am I willing to walk an hour and 15 minutes to offset that? And then I don't get the ice cap. Or, I do 2 hours workout at the gym, and that's, I don't know, burning 560 calories. And then you look at a McDonald's combo is like 1,200 calories, and you're like, it's just not fair. Like, it's insane.
It's really, you hit the nail on the head with everything. It's all about awareness. So one thing most people are so unaware of, how many calories are in, like you said, your coffee drink, from Tim Hortons, or, just for instance, in the morning, people, they'll have a big glass of orange juice, they'll have a muffin, and then maybe they'll have a latte, on their way into work. Bam, right there, you're already at almost 1,000 calories, and none of it was anything nutritious, So now, not only do you have
bad calories as well.
Not only do you have 1,000 bad calories in you, you're still hungry, because there's nothing in there like satiated your true hunger. And I think where the calories come in that most people have no clue, or they just don't think about it, they're all loaded with sugar. Sugar is talk about like a drug. It is an absolute drug. And I heard this years ago. They said if sugar hadn't been discovered yet, if we just discovered it today, it'd be a banned substance, a white powdery substance that's highly addictive and that's extremely deadly. And all the work that I've done in with cancer patients and survivors, and with diabetes and heart disease and all of that. One of the number one contributors to all of that is sugar. And it's, you know, it's one of the least talked about, I believe. And that's a whole nother side story. Is so years back, the sugar industry, or sugar, was found to be this one of the most harmful things on the planet. Well, the sugar industry didn't like that, so they paid these two doctors, at the time I believe it was about $50,000, which is zero today, to pin it on the fats, to the fat industry. So back in the 80s, when everything that we saw was packaged fat free, light, low fat, no fat, you know, whatever it was.
So smoke signal to
Smoke
look
signal.
this way.
Look over there. Don't do that. But, you know, and it was like, here. So, and in that time, we became the fattest we've ever been on the planet, the most overweight since the fat, you know, those days. Well, flip the switch about within the last, say, 10 years, where you're talking before about keto, like a ketogenic diet, which for those that don't know, it's just a high fat diet, very low carbohydrate, and a very moderate protein. Well, fats aren't equal. So you've got saturated fat, you've got fats that are in, you know, French fries and any fried foods and stuff like that. Or you have avocado, you have nuts, you have seeds, you have, you know, olive oil, you have coconut oil, you have, you know, all these grass-fed butter, you know, two different, you know, so if you take out all of that sugar and you take out all of those, you know, bad carbohydrates, and you add these fats in, that's ketogenic. So I had a doctor client of mine tell me years ago that his brother, who was a registered nutritionist and dietitian, he told him years back that it took 1 full year of, we'll call it diet, of a diet change or health change, the way that you eat, 1 full year for that to become the new you. So till you can own that, and your body is going to keep burning the way it's burning, looking the way it's looking, it takes 1 full year. And I always remembered that. So probably 6, 7 years ago, I was like, you know what? I was always like when you asked earlier, the diet, you know, versus working out and, you know, all of that, what's the ratio? I always had I call it an 80-20 rule for nutrition. 80% of the time, I'm going to eat healthy. The other 20, whatever, just, and not have that, you know, where the moment this morning where you're like, oh, you know, what do I do? You know, I want this cake. Okay. Use that as your 20 for the next 80% of your meals, make it good. So I'd always stick around the weight range of like about 212 to 220 and about 13-14% body fat. And I just was like, you know what? I want to get in the healthiest I've ever been. So I'm going to commit to keto for a year. And in that time, I got down to about right around 200, about 198, and stayed there. And my body fat percentage slipped under 10%. Then it was at like 9%. Then it was at like 8%. I'm like, holy crap. Like, this is so crazy. And here again, I'm eating the most fat I've ever eaten in my life, because, you know, don't eat fat free, you know. So that misconception went out the door. I got to the year point, hit my goal, and I'm like, I'm not just going to start eating pizza and burgers and fries and whatever right now, even though I want it, because it's still in my DNA of like how I grew up. Went another 6 months. So I made a commitment for 6 more. I'm like, you know, I'm going to commit for 6 more months. And then at that point, I can start introducing some back if I want. And I went another 6 months. And honestly, I've never felt better in my life. And keto isn't something per se that's 100% sustainable to stay eating that way forever. You can, but the ones that I know that do it, I see them also missing out on, they won't have a slice of birthday cake. They won't have, you know, a drink, or they won't have, you know, something that isn't ketogenic. So it's just, it really transformed, you know, my body, and now I own that body, you know, because I gave it the year.
Mm.
So that's the thing with people I see that not mess up, that I guess mess up, we'll call it mess up their plan or their thinking, because they think that they own that because it's been 4 months or 5 months or 7 months or however long. And then they go on that, oh, I'm going to go off my diet and I'm going on a cruise, or I'm going on a vacation, or there's a, you know, big party, or it's the holidays, and then I'll get back on it. Well, you don't own that yet. So not, you go off of it, guess what? You go right back into your old habits. You go right back into your old way of thinking. And, you know, I'll do this, then I'll do that. Well, you do this, and then that never happens, because when that part is usually the walk or the salad or the, you know, something healthy, because they partied the night before, or they, you know, went on vacation for that week, and, you know, took the rails off, and next thing you know, they're right back to eating with 2 hands, you know. And it's like, so the moral of the story, give it a year. You know, I know it seems like a long time, but break that down into daily habits. What are you going to do today? And then don't beat yourself up, get right back onto it. And then, you know, it just snowballs into something great, instead of snowballs into something that you start beating yourself up over every step along the way. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're worse than when you started, because now your mind's all messed up.
The great thing about the 80-20 rule is we all strive for that 100%, but the 80% allows you that one cheat day or that moment of weakness without beating yourself up, because even though it's not 100%, 80% is pretty good and you feel good about it. And if you're doing the right things 80% of the time, you're going to get good results.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes back to your question from the very beginning of, you know, with my calm demeanor, and not the drill sergeant mentality, that whole part of it right there is like, okay, give it 80% of the time, everything you got. The other 20, whatever happens, it's cool, because that's life. You know, you can have the best plan in the world. Going into a fight, you get punched in the face one time, your plans change. You know, so now you need to reset it. But if you have that going in, and knowing that you can go off the rails, but you just get right back on, that the outcomes are way better.
You mentioned that when you went keto for a year and a half, you ended up down at like 8%, 9% body fat. What is considered an athletic body? It's like if you drop below, I don't know, 12%, I'm just making up numbers. And then where should people be worried? Like if they get to 30% body fat, I don't know what is normal or not normal.
Yeah, anybody can Google, you know, body fat percentage for your height, for your age, and that will give you more of a determining factor. And I firmly believe that, you know, our healthcare system in the US, around the world, is it's skewed a little bit, and it's really trying to catch up to back to these talks of like good fats versus, you know, get rid of sugar. Like, I know people, like, they understand like sugar is not great. No, it is bad. Like, so it's, and I'm not saying don't ever have it. Again, back to the 80-20 or 85-15 or 90-10, whatever your rules that you set for yourself, just know that is always going to shift and change, but you got to have some parameters, you know, some guidelines to go off of. But I was going to say, the most at least in the States, the doctors, they measure your BMI, your basal metabolic index, which is basically off of your height and your age and your weight, and they give you a score. Well, my weight at about 200 pounds is different than other 200-pound people that are 6'2", because my muscle mass is way higher than most, because I put in a lot of time, you know, working out, so muscle mass and body fat, when you stand on a scale, It doesn't, it just gives you a weight, gives you a number.
Hmm.
So if you don't go off of body fat index, which is a real determining factor because it's showing you how much fat you have on your body. If your body is, 50% fat and 50% not fat, you're in trouble. Like, but if your body is, again, back to, I said mine's around, 10 or under, got 90% good stuff, 10% bad stuff, it just tips the scale in the positive way. And you're going to have way less chances of a heart attack or heart disease or diabetes and all of that. It's not it's not about how strong you are. It's not about how you look. It's not about all of that. For me, it's all about how I feel and how my chances of living a long, healthy life versus just a long life that, got to be very, very specific with what you want in life. And because it always shows up. So you want to be healthy, you want to live long, you want to, have healthy relationships, you want, make a list of all the things that you truly want and just start.
I remember hearing Joe Rogan talk about that criteria for testing isn't great because he's thick, like he's a thick jack dude, and he's I don't know, he's probably 5'8" or something. So with his height and his weight, he's considered like obese, and he's like the most jacked 55-year-old on the planet. Yeah. So it's not always quite right. Is accountability one of the biggest things when it comes to having a personal trainer or someone helping you with fitness and nutrition? Is that the main thing? Like, we all have the information needed to be rich, right, to be happy, to be wealthy, and most people aren't. Yeah. So it's not just the information, it's like the applied information, the applied knowledge. Is accountability what people need more than anything?
Accountability has got to be up there at the very top. Because most don't, once you get to the phase where, like I said, where when I commit for myself, 99 out of 100 times, I'm going to do it because I can keep myself accountable. Most people can't. And it's hard to get to that point. So yes, most people come to me in the beginning, I shouldn't say just the beginning, almost always for accountability. It's not that they don't know how to, like you said, all the information's out there. You could Google, 30-minute workout. You're going to get a million different things. You could do an hour workout. You get a million things. I want to do an hour and a half workout, million things. I want to do a core workout, million exercises, legs. But guess what? You still got to do that. So when you have an accountability partner in business or in life or in fitness, it just seems to, it really, it jumps you up a whole nother level of whether you're going to get it done or you're not, because most people will fall back to, back to the I ams.
Old habits.
Old habits. Oh, I'm a loser. I'm weak. I'm a whatever. No, like, get going. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I'm in the best shape of my life. Maybe you're not, but forward think. You have to forward think. And if you don't, those old habits will always win every time. And something's always going to come up to derail you, to get you off your plan. But it's about getting 80-20, 90, get right back, and then, get started again.
A few years ago, I got a holistic nutritionist, and he helped me lose 10 pounds of fat. And then I brought in a personal trainer, and he helped me gain 10 pounds of muscle. So it was like a switch of like the bad for the good. Yeah. And where accountability came in for me was a few different things. So number one was the holistic nutritionist made me write out everything I ate, at what time, how much, how I felt after everything I ate. So it's like I knew every time I had a burger, I felt horrible. So now it's the awareness. Yeah. It's going to taste good, but you already know you need a nap after eating that. Do you have time for a nap? No. Okay, right. Don't need it. So one of the things was the eating diary, and where that helped was the awareness. But for accountability, it was number one, if I'm going to eat like, 3 M&Ms because I'm trying to be healthy and it's like not a big cheat. It's like, well, I don't want to have to go and write in the journal that I had 3 M&Ms at this time. I felt this way. So I didn't want to have to do extra work for 3 M&Ms. So that helped me to not eat those. And I knew that the nutritionist was going to read that. And I was like embarrassed that I'm so good, but then I have to have 3 M&Ms. So not wanting them to read that or know that, I wouldn't have the M&Ms. So that accountability helped.
That's true.
That, and the other where accountability helped again was then with the personal trainer. It was really expensive, and I was going a few times a week. So it's like 2 sessions a week, this many times a month. It's a lot. And I mean, you get what you pay for, but there were lots of days where I was like, I don't feel like going. I don't want to work out. I'm on my own schedule. So it's like, I don't have to go at that time. I could go when I feel better. And just because I knew I was paying for it, I would go. And it's never happened where I went to the gym or a personal training session or hot yoga or went for a walk. It's never happened where I didn't want to do it. I did it. And then I regret it after. I always felt better. And it was always the right decision when I went. So those are my accountability examples.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And, you know, you hit the nail on the head as far as, so I've been training for 22 years, and I've never once in my life, which is the coolest thing on the planet, never once in my life has anyone ever came in to work out, not even just with me. I overhear everybody in the gym. When they leave, they've never once said, I wish I didn't do that. That doesn't, I mean, how many things could you say that that's true in? Not many, right? So like you said, other than, you know, going for a walk or, you know, anything fitness related, they've never had one person say, you know, I wish I didn't come work out without work out with you today, Dom. I'm like, that's so cool. And they're like, listen, I did not want to come. And I hear this multiple times a week. If I didn't have a session with you today, I would not have come. Thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. I was like, but you're glad you came, huh? Oh, absolutely. Every time. So
how amazing is it that, so our bodies are like an impossibility, like the millions of things that have to happen at all times for your entire lifetime, for you to exist, for you to function, for you to have balance, you know, all the bacteria and enzymes and all these other entities that live within you that you can't live without it, that we can see, like everything's, and it doesn't make sense. Like when I think about just being alive, I'm dumbfounded that I exist essentially. But isn't it amazing that the body rewards you for your fitness choices and your nutrition choices by giving you dopamine, by giving you serotonin, by rewarding you with the feel good chemicals for your sacrifice that allows it to survive and propagate and all those things. What are your thoughts on the natural kind of system that's in place?
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I always say, if you don't believe in God, who do you think created this amazing, you know, body that we have? And like you said, the capabilities that come along with that. And when you fuel it with the right things, when you put in the right things, not just in your mouth, but in your mind, it's so powerful. And like you said, with the serotonin and the dopamine and the, you know, those spikes and those hits that you get from your workouts or from your runs or from, you know, putting on, you know, a Les Brown or a Tony Robbins or whoever you're listening to, you know, reprogram the way that you think, is powerful, man. And then that's where I got with like keto and all these other things, like really breaking it down to like the cellular level of like, wow, like I'm rebuilding, you know, damage that I did all through college, you know, the partying and the, you know, too much, you know, late nights and not getting enough sleep and just having too much fun. And then going back and repairing all of that through proper nutrition and diet, and the mental fuel that we put into our brains daily, and watching it firsthand happen to clients, that make that change, that are really, they come in, say, I'd have in my brain this one gentleman who came in, he was almost 400 pounds. And he actually regained my like just belief in anybody that makes that decision and sticks to that decision to change can do anything. He went from almost 400 pounds in a year and a half down to about 230 pounds. And back to what you said about losing the body fat, but gaining the muscle weight, he also put on probably 40 pounds of muscle. So if you look at that, he was really down to about 190, 180 pounds if he didn't do any weight training of body fat. So he literally lost a full person, a 220 pound person, and gained that. And not just the weight, his energy, his just who he was, the aliveness, the spirit that shifted from like this defeated, like just broken person to this one who's like this energy levels is rising and rising and rising, and to like, it's a completely different man. And he's still that way probably 6 years now. So it's amazing what the human body can do, if you fuel it and do the right things. And, back to God, like, to me, I'm a man of faith. I'm a man of prayer. I'm a man of just really understanding that there's no way that, all of this could be happening without a higher power. That's my belief. I mean, that's then I took it to a whole spiritual level. Then I realized it's not just, there's not just one way, but then there's so many other different spiritualities and different ways to get get that same feeling that you need to get up every day and get going.
So you mentioned, one of the ways that people feel good after a workout, also after running, there's like the runner's high.
Yeah.
What is happening there? Is that it's releases extra dopamine, like the feel good, drug, the feel good chemical, hormone.
Yeah.
Is it from evolution that back in the day, if you're running away from something that's going to kill you, so the body kicks in things to keep you going? Like, what's going on there with the runner's high? And it's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. It's just the natural chemicals we have in our body that to be able to tap into those, and for those to, it's a natural drug. I mean, it's instead of taking synthetic drugs, that's how you can get these natural hormones to release within your body through working out, through, again, not even just working out, but through the proper motivation or mindset, or personal development. That is really feeding and tapping into those parts of your body and your chemicals to be released to feel good. So it's deep. I mean, the science of all of that is real deep. So I just want to keep it very simple, but it's just knowing.
Keep it simple for the layman people, for us.
That's what I mean, that's one of my fortes too. I have clients like, you have ability to break it down, to keep it really simple. And we learned, long ago, confused people do nothing. So then they try to analyze and try to figure everything out. Like, no, go for a walk. You're going to feel better. Do 10 push-ups. You will feel better. Again, it's just, it's not overthinking it. Keep it simple. Keep the body moving. Drink water. Breathe. Do some breathing exercises. Sit quiet, meditate for, could be a minute, could be 10 minutes, however long a day. be around the right people, get rid of, negativity in your life, turn off the news. These are all things we have within us right now. Like, we don't have to go get a membership to the gym. You don't have to hire a personal trainer. You don't have to work out 2 hours a day. Eat real foods, food that isn't packaged or processed or frozen. uh, as much as that as you can. Do as much movement as you can. Drink as much water as you can. Do breathing, little exercises as often as you can. People, I think, again, they try to confuse everything and make things way more difficult than they really are. Keep it simple.
I read in the book, The Primal Blueprint, that every time you go to eat, you should pretend that you're one of your ancestors. So you picture your great 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 grandma. Would she be able to grab whatever you're about to eat? So there's a
Yeah.
box of Kraft dinner, and you go, could great 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 grandma in the wild, hunter gatherer, grab a box of Kraft dinner somewhere? No. Okay, I got to put
No.
that back. Could she order McDonald's? No. Okay, got to put that back.
Right.
Could she make a salad with these things? Yes. There you
Right.
go. Like that's the
Right.
mindset you should have. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It is really cool. Another quick tip is, when you go into a grocery store, they always say, stay on the perimeter. If you think about in your mind what's on the perimeter of all grocery stores, it's all the real foods. It's the vegetables, it's the meats, it's the dairy, it's all the way around. You get in the middle, everything's boxed up on the shelf, preservatives, additives. Frozen section is usually in
Mm.
the middle. And I was like, you know what? That is so true. So do most of your shopping on the outside. On the inside, just pay attention.
I've heard that is a marketing trick because if everybody has to get, let's say, bananas, chicken, eggs, whatever, that by doing the perimeter of the building, everyone has to make it all the way through the store, which leads to the temptation of, okay, there's the Snickers, there's the ice cream. If they
Mm-hmm.
put all the necessities in, you know, 2% of the thing in the corner
Right.
there, people
Right.
would grab that and go, and that's not what they
Yeah.
want. So that's a
Yeah.
marketing tip as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And everything that's on those end caps of every aisle, set back to the marketing. It's always what? Chips, it's sodas, it's candies, it's all of this stuff. While you're walking around, you're gonna grab that, then head down that aisle.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
And the big companies pay a premium. They're actually
Yes.
paying for the shelf space. So whatever is eye level, they're paying extra. That's where like the big cereal companies are right
Yeah.
there. And then if you have to make an effort and get down on your knees to get something at the bottom or way at the top, those are kind of the no name brands, the less the companies that have less clout and less money.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's kind of cool to see all that marketing stuff. For me,
Yeah.
loving the business side of things and
Yeah.
how the mind works and how to promote. So I've dug deep into those things. Do you think one of the biggest misconceptions in fitness is that people think cardio when they want to lose weight, when in actuality you actually burn more calories with a regular weightlifting workout? That's true, right?
Yes.
Generally, like if
Yeah.
you jog for an hour, it's, let's say you burn 300 calories, and if you do a fitness workout, it's more than that, at least from what I've
Oh
been
yeah. I
tracking.
mean, you could, with a proper fitness routine, I mean, you could burn the amount of calories you do in an hour run in 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
Um, but what I tell people, and Byron being one of them, you got to look at your cardio for your heart. Your cardio is for your heart.
Okay.
Don't look at it for weight loss. Don't look at it for anything other than, heart healthy. You're trying to, burn those calories and pump that heart, get as much blood pumping through that heart as possible. What's that going to do? It's going to keep your heart strong. It's going to keep your, all of your arteries and capillaries and blood vessels, everything pumping through, all this great oxygenated blood. And then you're not going to get this plaque buildup. You're not going to get the, you know, the heart disease. And not saying that it won't happen, it'll happen way less. But most people do. They look at cardio as my weight loss program. This is back to the, oh, I had a bad meal last night, I'm going to go in the gym today and do all this extra cardio. That doesn't work out in the long run.
You mentioned that you've been doing this for 22 years. You've had a 22-year career in fitness, which means that you've been interested in fitness longer than that. It's like you've been a professional for 22 years. So what is your earliest memory of fitness and nutrition where it was a thing that you were consciously aware of? And, how early did you know that this is something you'd want to invest your life in as a career?
You know what? I had no idea that this would be my career, what I'd be doing. I went to college, Buffalo State College in 1992 to play football. And that was it. Like school was never my thing. Sports was always my love. So I knew I had to do well in school to play sports. That was my only like true connection to school as far as the academic side of it. Growing up, I played football, basketball, baseball, throughout like high school. And, I was a captain of my football, basketball, and baseball team. So I excelled at a very high level. And it wasn't because of nutrition and because of, we as a family, we ate what was on the table, and it went looking back, my mom laughed. She's like, the way we ate, she's like, you would think that we would have all been like 500 pounds. And, but so I went to college, played football, and it was probably my third year. I think it was my third year of college, and I'd already gone through two majors. I first wanted to get into, into law enforcement. Found out, took one class in that, realized that wasn't for me. Then I went into early childhood development teaching for one semester, realized that wasn't for me. Then I just took all my general classes and courses. And I was pretty much done with all of those. And one of my teachers said, what's your major? I'm like, funny you ask, I need to find one. He's like, well, you seem to really like my class. And it was something in the health field. I'm like, yeah, I love it. And he's like, and you like so-and-so, another teacher, her class, right? And I'm like, yeah, I love that class. He's like, well, we have a new major called health and wellness. He's like, you should really look into, getting a degree in that. He's like, you'd actually be the second class to ever graduate with a health and wellness degree from Buffalo State College. I'm like, sounds great, let's do it. So I ended up graduating with a degree in health and wellness way before that was even a word. Or a term, it was just, and there was really like, here's your list of potential jobs. It was pretty much blank. There was like, you could be a health coordinator for a big corporation, or, personal training back then really wasn't too much of a thing, at least in Buffalo. When I moved out or came out to California and visited, it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with a health and wellness degree, but this seems like the epitome of health and wellness. People are moving and outside
gyms, which Canada cannot exist.
Yeah. But even on the Strand, like going up and down the beach, you'd see people rollerblading, roller skating, skateboarding, riding contraptions you've never seen, running, walking, pushing a stroller, like fast, jogging with a stroller. I'm like, this seems like the place. And then, so that's that portion of it. The fitness side of it, playing football in college, like, we worked out in high school a little bit, but that was never like the big emphasis of it. It was like, you have to work out, but, we weren't really given the reasons, the total reasons why, or whatever it was. When I got to college, you realize real quick why you had to work out, because there was some big, massive humans that were, again, playing quarterback. They were trying to hurt you. They were playing defense, and
They weren't
you know.
very friendly, were
They
they?
were not friendly. They wanted to, and it looked like they could hurt you. So the workouts were very intense for football. And then I started to see the change of like, wow, like, what it can do to your body, physical body in a short period of time, working hard and with a plan. So it was probably then and there where like this whole fitness aspect was like, this is really cool because now I can do things with my body I could never do. I can jump higher, I can run faster, I can push more weight, I can squat more weight. I get hit, it doesn't hurt, or I'm not feeling it like I did before in a bad way. And then after I graduated and I moved out here, someone asked me about personal training or told me, I was like, yeah, and I'm just thinking I was already personal training back in college, meaning helping people work out and putting workouts together for friends or whoever. Didn't know that was something you could get paid for, right? So I came out here, I interviewed for a couple jobs, and like dating myself, Xerox was one of the companies, and
Big company.
And they had a huge like gym fitness component for their facility, so they needed like a health director or something. So I interviewed for that. Glad I didn't get it. It was like one of those very like just corporate jobs, and I'm like, I didn't get it. I'm like, you know what, I do want to get into training. So I got my certification in personal training, and just knew that, for whatever reason, I knew that's what it was, what I was going to do for, the longevity. Then once I dove into personal training and helping, you help one person and you see them shift and change their life, it just was like, wow. And then probably the earliest moment of what I had to offer was a lady was telling me how she made it up her flight of stairs with her laundry without losing her breath. I'm like, you went up one flight of stairs with the laundry basket and you usually lose your breath? I'm like, that is crazy. And just from the short time she spent with me, that was like a big win for her. That was a big, so I was like, wow.
That's progress. Like that's the biggest thing we need.
Huge.
Is progress. People
Yes.
get very, very sad and hopeless and depressed when there's no progress, because it feels like there's no hope that tomorrow could be better than today. So
Right.
that's like the main thing we need for mental health and positive
Absolutely.
emotion is progress. That's
Yeah.
what we live for.
It's progress over perfection. People always want perfection. They're trying to make whatever they're doing perfect, not realizing where they started. Again, that same person 6 months past that gets to a point where they're like, oh, back to the I suck, I this, I'm the worst, I whatever. Look at me, Dom. I'm not going anywhere. I'm this, that. I'm like, no, do you remember you couldn't even make it up a flight of stairs without losing your breath? Let's look at the wins along the way. And that's what it is. It's just the progress, it's either, they say you're either getting stronger or you're getting weaker. You're either living or you're dying, and there's no staying the same. You're never staying the same. And that's the hardest part for people to wrap their mind around, is like, it's just, keep plugging along, keep going, keep doing the little things, get back to what made you feel good, what made you feel great, what made you feel amazing. Get back to doing that. You do this, you already know you're not going to feel good. You do anything on that list, it's going to make you feel better. Dive back into that list.
Small daily incremental progress is virtually unstoppable. It's like
Totally unstoppable.
the momentum, the compounding. You just need that one little win. A lot of times we look at, there's so much that needs to be done to get anywhere near where we want to go. And it's like, well, what can you do right now? Can you take that one step? Can you do that one workout? Yes, do it. Yes. Okay, I've done it. There's progress. There's the good chemicals release that things are better in this moment than they were an hour ago. Now, what is the smallest incremental improvement I can make? Well, the room's a little messy. I could clean it up.
Yeah.
Okay, clean up the room. Oh, look, there's a little bit more space. Okay, feeling a little better.
Yeah.
That's the best advice I ever got, was the small incremental progress is unstoppable.
It's everything, and we get fed all this, information. We go on Instagram and we see all of this perfection all the time. You know, Little do we know, those people, those things either took way longer than you have any idea for that to look like that, or you zoom away from the camera, everything's a mess. It's like, so you just have to get back to that tip right there that you got, of just the small incremental, daily positive activities over the course of, a week, a month, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, is amazing the difference that your life could be in that short, in that amount of time, just doing little things different and not beating yourself up.
Yeah. 4 years ago, I was in LA for a month to build my business. Met up with you a few times. I remember going to Cheesecake Factory, which is a place I went, I don't know, 5 times in a month. And now we have one in Toronto. There's actually one in Canada. But when I was there, the highlight of my month was every morning going out on the boardwalk by the water, and the sunshine, and doing like a 1 hour, 2 hour jog. So listening to amazing music, sunshine, all these people are out doing it like it's normal, like it's the way things are. That was one of the highlights. And I see with your videos, you're on the beach a lot. And how important is that to you? Like, how much do you appreciate, coming from New York, and you get winters there, so you know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what, it's one of those things again of like, what makes you feel good, what fills you up, what makes you feel amazing. To me, sunshine is everything. Being outside, being in the, back to the elements, the water, taking my feet off, putting them in the sand, going down to the water line, getting that water, that sunlight beaming off of you, just it releases something different. And I remember when I moved out here, it was someone was just saying, man, it's really expensive. There you can live inland, like you go inland like 10 miles, man, it's so much cheaper. I'm like, I did not move 3,000 miles away from everybody I know and love to make it 5 miles, 10 miles from the beach. I'm living as close to the beach as possible. And I've always had that, just that appreciation and really the attitude of, this is right here in our backyard. Get there. It's a mile away from where I live. Get to the beach. And I know and train so many people who, they live a mile, two from the ocean, and they have never even been there. I'm like, what? You've never been? Oh, well, I mean, like once or twice. No, that means you've never been there. You've been there once or twice. You've been here for 20 years. You don't even go down and appreciate, it is not even just looking at it, at what it is, and in its beauty, it's as beautiful as it can be, but how it makes you feel. Back to the gym analogy I told you before, I've never had anyone come to the gym and say, I wish I didn't come. I've never met anyone that's gone down to the beach and said, you know what, I wish I didn't go down there today. It's never happened. I mean, it just like, how do you not remember that feeling of like how it made you feel? Why would you not want to go back and get more of it? It didn't cost you anything. You're already here. It's for the ones that are here. So yeah, it means a lot, man. It really does. And I don't take it for granted. I appreciate it. And I feel like when I'm there, it fills me up so much that I can give back, when the videos that I do and all of that, it really speaks to me. And I feel like, so like just at peace and at ease in those moments.
Let me help you to really not take it for granted. Okay. So here we can go, several days without any sun. Let me see if I can do this. So this is called a happy light, and it emits, some rays that come from the sun. And it's proven to help with mental health. And
Yeah.
you know, it's true, there's such thing as seasonal depression. And in Canada, I mean, we can go a long time without any sun, and you know, suddenly you're just not feeling great, and it's like you're not alive, like you're not
Right.
outside getting that natural sun. And so I feel you, man. I feel you when you're
Yeah.
out there in the sun, man. In the summers, I'm outside 2 or 3 hours a day walking or jogging or
Yeah.
rollerblading, and I feel so good. It's ridiculous. Should I move to LA? What's going on?
You should definitely move to
I think there's room for me now. I hear these could be rumors. I hear there's like a
LA.
mass exodus from LA
Yeah.
because of the mayor, or they're about to double the taxes, or
It's
all
a
these things. I don't know if any of that's true. What's actually going on in LA? Is there an inside scoop?
yes, LA. You know, there's a lot going on with the with everything. We'll put it at that. One thing that I believe has helped with my longevity in my career is I typically don't talk politics or religion. We'll do both of these on here right now, but
They
it's
say on
just
a
that
first date, those are the two things not to talk about in
no
the first
man.
date, faster than anything, religion and
Yeah.
politics.
Unless they align with you. If they align with your thinking, then your money. But yeah, LA just has some challenges right now with um with
Leadership, I
a,
guess.
what's that?
With leadership, I guess, from the top down.
With a lot of things. Somehow you know, with the criminals and like I'm trying to think what his actual title is, but um he's not the chief of police. He's the
Like a
doesn't matter
commissioner or something.
what he is, but he's in charge of like what sentences and what crimes are set and what is deemed, you know, jail time versus no jail time versus who you can arrest, who you can't. And these criminals are, you know, they're literally they know the rules, man. So they'll steal whatever they can steal, and then if they get caught, they go in front of a judge and they get let right out, and they go do it again and again and again. You know, and there's just a lot of that going on. I don't get caught up in all of that. I mean, to a degree, yes. Does it mean is it is it a problem? Yeah. Am I going to leave LA because of all that? No. Am I going to leave because of the taxes? No. Am I going to leave because of, you know, whatever I don't agree with is the way it should be? No. It's I'm very much as most should be. If it's out of your control, what are you worried about? If you're going to go fight the fight, then yeah, it's something you should worry about. But if you're not signing up to go fight the fight, I'm not doing the politics. I'm not doing, you know, all of the who should be impeached and who should be this and that. And that's where you get people's minds get so wrapped up into the wrong things and not worrying about the things that they have direct control over, which is back to what we've been talking about for the last hour: our own health, our own mental health, our own physical health, our own relationship health. That's what we can focus on, or we should focus on. And that's where I've chosen to, you know, literally spend my entire life in that side of it. So yeah, I'm not going anywhere, Joel. So there's plenty of room for you and anyone who thinks like me, because I know you do. It's not getting wrapped up into all the things that we have zero control over. Doesn't mean that I don't care about it, or that I don't that I'm in support or not in support of. It just, I'll put, you know, the people that love to do that, I'm all for those people to go fight those fights. And there's, you know, luckily we have, that's what I say about, you know, the United States in general. You know, luckily we have a lot more, you know, well-informed and capable people than just, you know, our president or whichever president. You know, I always tell people, you got to remember, when a president is elected, there's more than 50% of the people that do not want that person in there every time. So it's just, we've been going at this for thousands of years, that we're going to be okay.
Hmm. When you first got to LA all those years ago, did you ever have a fear that you wouldn't be able to make a living in fitness? Now, all these years later, it's like, you're successful. You've gotten so much experience and titles with, you're not just a personal trainer that's helping
Right.
people. You have the Reiki and the holistic and the health and nutrition. You have so much to offer. But way back when you see that there's so many personal trainers and you're just a drop in the ocean,
Right.
you never had that fear that I can't take this and create a life and create a steady income to build a life for me and my future family. Where you just, was it that youthful blindness of just, you're doing something you're passionate about, it'll work out?
Yeah, it was never a thought. I mean, as far as like that I wouldn't make it in whatever I do. I I always say New York is a great place to be from because it taught me so much of my core values, ethics, and my ability to overcome a lot of obstacles. I think that people, especially out here in California, it's like they call it the bubble, where we live here. It's like people here think that everybody in the world lives like they do. I got news for you. They don't. This bubble is different. So when I came to the bubble of South Bay, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach, Palos Verdes, right here. I just looked around, even the 405, the main, our highway here, and there's so many people. And I'm like, I just would look around. I'm like, man, if I could get $1 from every car that had passed me, just $1, everybody's got $1, I could make it. And so that was kind of the initial mentality. I remember that vividly. And then like looking around again, back to where I said earlier, when I had people telling me, oh, you could move inland, 5-10 miles and it's, half the price. But I would look where I'm at and there's houses and people everywhere. I'm like, man, if all these people have made it and figured out how to stay here and live here, I sure as hell can too. So I always had that mentality. The nutrition, I mean, the fitness part of it, in the beginning, like I said, when I graduated with a health and wellness degree, I had no clue what I would do. But I stuck to doing, what I knew. And they say if you're doing something that you love, you don't work a day in your life. And I fully, fully, fully believe that because, and I couldn't even, in the beginning, I couldn't even imagine, as you alluded to earlier, it's expensive for a trainer. And it's I figured like who would pay this kind of money, so I had a hard time actually charging people for my worth. And that's more of what it is. What's it worth? Like, is it expensive or is it an investment? I call it an investment. Like if you're investing in your health and the longevity of your health and the stuff, the tips and the knowledge that I can give to somebody, if they take that, it's a huge investment for them to gather that knowledge. Back to, the Reiki and, just all these different aspects of what makes me me. And that's how I started separating myself as a trainer. Because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of trainers or health coaches or fitness instructors or types of workouts or types of fitness. How do I make me, Dom, different than everyone else? I started, getting knowledge and expertise in different areas to form me. Then I started getting into, as you alluded to earlier, network marketing and different types of home-based business. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, one income or one style, one way to make money for myself is not going to be enough for what I want to do for the rest of my life, to be able to travel the world, to be able to have homes wherever I want, to be able to, raise a family and to be a provider and to do all of that, I'm going to need more. So I started just staying, I shouldn't say started, I always stayed open. And I believe that's one of my superpowers is always have had an open mind and never, said, no, I'm like, okay, what do you got? Show me what it is. And then by doing that, man, it just expanded my mind and blew, even we'll go back to Reiki. It was, see, my son is 14. My wife was pregnant with him. So 15 years ago, I tore a quad muscle and it was not going away. I did every traditional recovery thing I could do, physical therapist, rest, ice, stay off of it, make it work, work it lightly. Nothing was working. And I had a client who, she was a Reiki master, and I had no clue what that meant or what it was. I was open. So I asked her, could you, I was like, do you still do that? Is it Reiki? She laughed. She's like, yeah. I'm like, do you still do that? She's like, oh yeah. She's like, what's going on? I told her about my quad. She's like, all right, just grab a mat, lay it here on the floor in the gym, and, just relax. So I did. She literally just laid her hands on my leg like this, did not move them, did nothing. And I'm laying there thinking like, all right.
Yeah, what is this voodoo magic?
What is this voodoo? And then about 2 minutes later, I'm like, it's getting really warm, in my head. About a minute or two more, I'm like, okay, that heat sensation, if we scale it 1 to 10, we'll say it's at a 3 or 4. Another minute goes by, it's about a 5 or 6. Another minute goes by, it's about a 6 or 7. And she's doing nothing. I mean, literally nothing, but has her hands laid on my leg. And at that point, she turns to me and she goes, you might feel it getting it warm or tingly or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah. She's like, isn't that wild? Yeah. And I'm like, why is it so wild? I mean, in my head again, I'm like, what the heck's so wild about? What is going on? Literally within the next 3-4 minutes, it went from like a 7 to an 8 to a 9 of heat. And like, I almost had to ask her to take her hands off my leg. It was getting so hot. And then I had that internal conversation, like, no, suck it up. Like she doesn't have fire under her hands. There's nothing. I don't know what it is. Anyway, she did it for maybe 10 minutes. She's like, okay, see how that feels. I get up, I stand up, I pull my leg to my butt. I'm like, I could not even touch my foot before that. I literally grabbed my leg, pulled it up, did like a quad stretch. Had to do the other side just to make sure it was the right side. Did a couple of full squats, looked at her. I'm like, what the heck just happened? That night or the next night, I went and played softball and really tore it again, re-injured it again. So my first lesson of healing versus healed, I was healing. So the next week she came in, I asked her, if she could do it again. She's like, oh, is it still bothering you? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I didn't tell her what I did. She literally put her hands on my leg again. Within seconds, she goes, wow, it feels much deeper this time. She's like, did you re-injure it? I'm like,
you're like embarrassed to tell her.
Well, but I'm like, how the fuck did she know? And I was embarrassed to say, yeah. And she just laughed. And I did the same test as I did before. It was like, I tried to pull my leg up to my butt. I couldn't even come close to touching my foot. She does the same thing happens. I stand up, I'll grab my foot, I pull it to my butt, same thing, squat down. And she's like, I'd really love to, it's called an attunement, basically pass along the gift. Doing a Reiki attunement for you and for Liz, because she's pregnant right now. She's going to be in some discomfort, and you can give her Reiki and practice on her. And you're always going to need it from
this would be your wife, right?
My wife. Yeah. So, I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. So I come home, I tell my wife, and she's like, well, let's look it up. So we look up what is Reiki. And the very first 2 sites we go to, it's like, it's transfer of energy through the universe, through the administrator's hands. It's They're like, it's not a religion, it's not a cult, it just is. Okay, cool. One more
That
side.
checked off the first box. Okay, it's not
Yeah,
a cult.
it's not a cult, it's not a religion, it just is. And I'm like, I'm down. So we went and got attuned, passed the gift, and then we became what was called Reiki 1. Reiki 1 is your minister, and you can now start giving Reiki. I mean, there's a few things that within it you need to do, but nothing crazy. And I remember when we left her house, she's like, she's like, your kids they'll love that. Kids love it, and animals love it if they need it. If they don't, they kind of freak out. And I'm like, okay. The next day, my dog we had a puppy at the time, and he had a bad knee from birth. And our friend's dog, they were running and chasing. It went to jump up, it slipped, fell down, and it was howling like he got ran over by a car. I'm like, I scooped him up, I brought him upstairs, shut the door, I started giving him Reiki. And I shit you not, within 2 minutes, he was passed out snoring. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
You got that magic touch now.
Woo! So then I go train my client a couple of days later, who's probably one of the most spiritual and Catholic. Actually, this necklace I have on is my saint, my hero, which is one of the very first pieces that she ever did. That's a whole nother crazy story. So she has an issue with her Achilles and like calf area. And I asked her, can I do Reiki on you? And she's like, and I didn't know how she's going to take it, being hardcore Catholic, because whatever. She's like, oh, I love Reiki. This one master that travels. I'm like, cool. She lays down. I'm giving it to her. And I can feel like tingly and like crazy heat, almost like I did on my leg, happening in my hands. I'm like, wow. She gets up in about 10 minutes. I'm like, I don't know if you felt anything, whatever. She got up. It was immediately feeling better. She's like, oh, yeah. She goes, it was shooting up my leg, across my butt, down my other leg, and out my big toe the other side. And I'm like, literally just going, what is going on? So that's the long story of saying, at that point, I was already open. That just kept my mind open to like, I know nothing. And as you've learned, the more we learn, the less we realize we don't know anything. And as long as not that we don't know anything, there's so much more to learn. And I've always stayed with that mentality and that mindset. And it just keeps bringing me more and more and more people into my life to shift and change and to mold and to expand. Then Mr. Nelson comes into my life and just really blew it up to a whole nother level of like just endless possibilities of what's really out there. Stay open, keep that mind completely wide open, that that there is way more than you could ever imagine or expect.
Talking about energy, is Reiki where they focus on chakras, like it's different energy centers in the body? Is that Reiki?
That's different. Reiki is truly just a transfer of energy from the universe to the person. So then there's Reiki 2, which is you get another attunement. Basically, you get more powers. And with Reiki 2 is you're able to do it remotely. So literally, I could give you Reiki right now, being here. I mean, you don't even have to be on the screen. I can just send it to you. That portion, I never really practiced. I didn't understand it. I didn't get it. I'm like, that part really seemed kind of voodoo to me. Not that the other didn't, right? It's like, so again, that's just our rational thinking and us really trying to figure stuff out. So during the beginning of the pandemic, I had a friend call me up and said, listen, my one friend is really struggling. She's open to, because we had talked a little bit about Reiki and energy and all that. She's really, spiritual and really open to other types of healing. Do you think you could give her Reiki? Like, I don't really want to go around someone who's got COVID, especially at that time. They're like, if you just look at someone who has COVID, you're going to die. It's like, yeah. So I'm like, but I can do remote Reiki. And she's like, oh, she's totally open to that. She told me, Uh, anyway, so send her remote Reiki, and the message that she sent back, I'm gonna have to go back and document a lot of this stuff because it's like I have all these messages saved, and it was like blew my mind what she felt, and I'm like, okay, I'll send it again tomorrow. Do it again tomorrow, same thing, even crazier. So then I find out someone else has COVID, a friend of mine and her daughter, and I told her, I said, listen, I don't know if you're open to this, but I just helped someone else, with it. And then she's like, oh yeah, for sure. She sends me the same, oh, not the same message, but same, just like mind blowing of like how much it helped. I'm like, wow. And then my hero lady, Amy Diambra, she was like, I would love to pay you to send Reiki to my sister who had ALS, which is another terrible disease. And I'd love to pay you to do that. I'm like, no, I want to do that for you. So I started sending it to her. The messages she started sending, very first one, I'll never forget. She's like, oh my God, thank you so much. She's like, I slept all night long. I haven't slept in months. Wait, what? So at that point, this is a long story of wrapping it back around to that I didn't do remote Reiki because I didn't understand it. I'm like, I don't understand it when you're right here and I'm doing it. Why would I think I should understand sending it remotely? So then I just was like, wow, this stuff is way too powerful to even wrap my head around. Don't try to understand it. Just know that it is. And looking back, some of my paperwork the other day, I just realized 5 years ago. So the level 3 is you become Reiki master. Reiki master means you get more powers, you get more ability to more healing abilities, and then you're also able to pass along the gift. So I can make other Reiki healers. So it's cool, man. It's just
It sounds like a video game where you can keep leveling up, but in real life, which is better than a video game,
right? Absolutely.
Talking about doing remote Reiki, a lot of things have gone remote because of the pandemic and the lockdowns and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How has the pandemic affected you personally? Because a lot of industries have been decimated.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the live event industry, the entertainment industry,
right.
You have the food industry, you have the airlines and fitness. Yeah. Right now in Ontario, Canada, the province that I'm in, we're in lockdown, like as bad as the very start of the pandemic 2 years later now, where my gym is closed. I can't go to the gym. I can't eat in a restaurant. Concerts are closed. You're not, I think we're not allowed more than 5 people in your home, like in a room. Wow. It's really bad. So, specific with you with fitness, my gym isn't even open. It's going to open now on the 31st, which is awesome. But for you, there's been some changes, right, with your business, because you own a physical gym, which gets hit really hard.
It's so challenging. For me, mentally, just trying to wrap my mind around what you just said about how you're closed back down. It's right back to the beginning. And to close, even, right when it first happened, when they closed us down in March of 2020, like everyone else, I'm like, you are literally closing down the one thing that's helping people stay alive. And we did a lot of work with cancer survivors, and we started a nonprofit for giving fitness and nutrition classes to cancer survivors. And we started that like 17, 18, probably 19 years ago now. And we're like, you are literally taking away people's lives. Forget, what this whole thing is right now, because at that time, we didn't really understand or know all that we know now about COVID and what it is. What we did know is you're taking away something that's physically and mentally changing people's lives, which is fitness. And that just seemed so wrong on so many levels. And so we closed down like everyone did. And then, after we found out a little bit more about it, we started bringing people back in kind of underground into the gym, the ones that felt, open and willing to do it. So we stayed there for, a while, but nothing else was physically open, the gyms and all of that legally. So then, it got to a point in time was like, we have to make a hard decision here coming forward. Like, what do we want to do? And the landlord made the decision for us. He wanted all his money. So after a year of us being closed before we could open back up with all these crazy restrictions, now he wanted his money. So we were in the hole like 80 grand.
Yeah, gyms have massive expenses for their,
Oh,
all the equipment, the
yeah,
gas and electricity.
yeah,
So
it's
having no
insane.
income coming in is insane,
So no income coming in, and then they want their full rent. So in July, yeah, it was July, we decided that my partner and I, after 20 years of being in business, that we had to shut the doors, man. And it was like, it was one of the hardest things, but it was also one of the, for me, just as we've talked here for a couple hours almost, of who I am and my makeup and my core. I always knew I'm going to be fine. I'm not Dom Amici tied to just end results, which was our gym, End Results Health and Wellness. I'm not End Results Health and Wellness. I'm Dom Amici. And I started creating that many years back with the Reiki, with, multi-level marketing, different types of companies, marketing myself as, something outside of just a personal trainer. So yeah, it's been a journey, man. So since then, I share a space actually with Byron. It's right next door to his office. That space was opening up, or had been open for a long time, I should say. And he reached out to the landlord and, put in an offer to rent that space. And he's like, I'm going to either buy, some equipment from your gym that you're selling and put it in there, and or just go get some more and create my own gym. He's like, if you want to bring some of your clients over, we'll work something out. So I've done that the last 6 months. It's been absolutely amazing. It's given me time to really reflect on, I'm big on, letting the universe speak to me rather than me trying to dictate what I think it should be. And it would start with, at my walks at the beach, I'd be like, okay, what am I going to do now? Nope. What do I want to do? You got to flip it and be careful of your words, because words are things and they're real. So it's not what am I going to do? And no one should ever think that, what am I going to do now? No, what do you want to do? Because if you really become clear on what you want to do and who you want to become, things just start lining up, So from that point forward, like, other people have started coming into my life, that were just, again, God sent people, of like other healers or other holistic people who just have different understandings, and have similarly, a physical therapist who's been a PT for 20 some years, but on the holistic side, like completely different mindset and thinking of the traditional way and route of, what they're taught in school, and how, most doctors and physical therapists and in that line of work, how they have to think, because that's the law of, what they were taught. And back to insurance, and most of it's stuff that cover their ass. They got to do it this way. They can't go outside the box because of, they don't want to get sued, and they don't want to lose their license, and they don't want to have these malpractice suits and all of that. I stayed away from all of that and stayed in my own lane of like, I'm me. I'm not that I can't get sued, but I don't fall under those same, ways that you're forced to think, the forced to do, and think outside of the box, and really help you in other ways. So it's a shift, it's a change. When it happened, when I found out that, we would be closing, it was a tough pill to swallow, more or less, because no one likes to be forced to do anything. You want to do it on your own terms. But I also always been a very positive person in my own thinking, and knowing that, what, this is the way it's supposed to be. This is out of my control. Could we have saved it? Could we have figured it out? Could we have borrowed money from all these places? Yes, but that I just knew that, and my partner too, just knew that wasn't the right thing. What's to come will come, and it'll be something that I get to create, that I get to actually have a hand in, of what I want, and there's a lot.
Well, even now, I mean, we're coming on the 2-year mark of the pandemic, and at least in Canada, gyms are still getting closed down for 3 weeks, open, and there's still uncertainty. It's not even like now, that, okay, the worst is past us. There was an income, we were losing money, but now we can start rebuilding with a plan. Yeah, I think the timing was right, probably, to get out, because I don't know what it's like in LA or in the US, but in Canada, it's minus the last, say, 2 weeks, we were having the worst numbers we've had, period. So every day today is the worst, is the highest numbers of new COVID cases since the beginning. The next day broke the record of the day before. Like, we're worse than we've been from the start. So in Canada, I would not want to be a gym owner or a business owner with a physical location in any way.
No.
So I think you're on the right path. And I think, things happen for a reason, and you're resourceful and optimistic, and everything will conspire in your favor. One other thing that's happening during the pandemic is there's kind of two groups of people. Some people are gaining weight because of the pandemic. Some people are losing weight. So those that are gaining weight, it's like, well, the sports that we normally play are closed. The gym is closed. Your routine is broken. There's the comfort eating because of the uncertainty or the mental health issues. And then there are those where, well, now I don't have an hour or 2-hour commute. I have more time back to focus on fitness. So I guess my question to you as an expert is, what can the listeners of this podcast be doing to take their fitness and nutrition into their own hands, to either lose those 10 pounds or to stay, achieving those goals that they've set for fitness?
Yeah, it's, that's all real. I mean, everything you just said, it's a real thing. It's a real challenge. But back to a lot that we've alluded to already in this podcast, of keep it simple. Don't overthink it. Get back to the basics. Movement is key. Sitting is, they coined sitting as the new smoking years back, on the detrimental health effects that it has, because people, a lot less people smoke now, but everybody's sitting. So it's get up, move. It's this right here, water.
Good quality H2O.
A lot more water in your life. When you get hungry, or you think you're starving, more times than not, you're thirsty. You need water. Hydrate. Do some, we're all equipped with a body. Move it. Squat, lunge, push-ups, stuff that costs no money. It doesn't take much time in your day to do 20 push-ups. It doesn't take much time in your day to, go for, even if you can't get outside and walk in your house, do circles. I have a client who did 10,000 steps a day was his goal. And a lot of times he'd get on a call and he would just like walk around his house, or he'd walk in his room, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's the little things, man. And everybody that's listening to this podcast, we all have internet or accessibility to this brand new thing called YouTube. Go on YouTube or Google 5-minute workout, 10-minute workout. this is if you don't do anything. If you're accustomed to working out, do 1 hour workout, 1 hour home workout, 1 hour body weight workout, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and just, you just got to get going. My biggest advice is start small, create new daily habits, and build off of that. Most people, that come to me, or just in life in general, doesn't even have to be with fitness. It could be with reading, it could be with meditating, it could be with prayer, it could be whatever it is. They try to go all in, like, okay, I'm going to do, 2 hours a day and 7 days a week or whatever. Start with 10 minutes, start with 2 minutes. So if you build off of that, you want more. They say if you go, whatever you're doing, if you put a time limit to it or a time frame to it, and you put it too long and it starts to feel like a chore, you're going to stop. If it's not where you feel like you want more, you're not going to keep doing it. If you want more, you're going to keep doing it. So, I tell people, if you haven't walked in a while and you want to get walking back part of your routine, start with 10 minutes. Walk 5 minutes away from your house, set a timer, 5 minutes and 5 minutes back. You're going to like, oh, I can do more than that. I know you can, but do 5 with meditation, which has become an integral part of my life, because I did it long enough to understand or to feel the effects, and it doesn't take that long. I started with 2 minutes. I do everything to myself, put this on myself, I should say. And I'm like, if I can't do 2 minutes a day, every day, I suck, and I don't suck. So that's how I started. And I literally did 2 to 3 minutes a day, and I wanted more. Then I went to 4 or 5 minutes a day. Then I wanted more. Then I'd do 10 minutes a day. I'd want more. And then I would do 10 minutes again at night, or I would do 20 minutes. And then, so it's the building up rather than the burnout. The ones that try to come into the gym and work out, they're like, oh, I'm going to come 5 days a week. I'm like, don't do that. Do 2. No, then I'm not going to get, the results will come in time, not right then. So they'll come 2, and then after a few weeks or months, we'll add another day. And then after a while, then we'll add stuff for them to do on their own, and then it's building off of, the little bits, and feeling and wanting more.
Do you have any book recommendations for fitness or nutrition? And I have a funny story. So you recommended a book, The Energy Formula: 6 Life-Changing Ingredients to Unleash Your Limitless Potential. So you were telling me that someone you highly respect recommended it to you. You read it, you recommended it to me. And this is what's funny is I asked for it for my birthday from my parents. And here's this weird timing that happened is they ordered it and it arrived. What is it? It arrived at their house like the day after they just left for 2 months for Mexico. So it's for my birthday that just passed, and we were off by like 1 day, and now I have to wait 2 months to get it. So I officially own the book. I just haven't received it yet. So any book recommendations?
As far as
Fitness
health and wellness and fitness goes, that one right there is powerful.
So it's what, Sean Wells or something?
What is his name?
But anyways, the book is The Energy Formula.
The Energy Formula.
And it's an orange book.
It is. It's, I don't want to say the problem with it. The problem with it is it gets really deep. So don't try to understand it all. Take what you can get. It's like any other high level book that you've read, and then you read it again. You're like, wow, I didn't feel like you didn't even read the book before, because you catch so many other pieces of information. It's powerful. I mean, just believe everything in that book is real, because it is. It's not, and a lot of it, comes down to what we think we know about nutrition, or what we think we know because of what we've learned through schooling and through what the governments tell us, and what our doctors tell us. it's not always the most, correct information for our time now, because we've done a lot of these, back to Joe Rogan. There's so many that are biohackers. Biohacking, for people that don't understand what that is breaking down your biology of your down to the cellular level and really figuring out how our bodies really work. How do our cells really work? How do they really repair themselves? How does that tie into our daily life and energy and longevity and how great we feel? And back to the dopamine and serotonin, like how do we get more of all of this and less of the feeling groggy and feeling, just fighting that hamster wheel cycle, and get off of that cycle and really break out of that. In that book, Energy Formula, that really was an eye opener for me. A lot of the stuff that I really gravitate to and will recommend or non-traditional. It's not the normal. There's a million books out there. Wim Hof is
the Iceman.
The amount of stuff I learned in that book, and was reinforced through that book of just, again, back to non-conventional, non-traditional ways, back to, using your own body, he has a lot of stuff with breathing and different breathing exercises, and I tell people about, even one of my trainers, I'm like, you should check this book out. And she's like, I've done all kinds of breathing. I'm a yoga expert. And I'm like, okay, I do all these different breathings for yoga. You haven't done this type of breathing, I can guarantee. It's a different specific breathing pattern. And what that does is help, charge and energize your body with your own breath. How cool is that? Everyone has a breath. Get back to that. Cold water immersion. Cold exposure, and if you don't live in Canada right now, if you're here, you're not going to get it outside. But with that, he teaches this method, not just ice baths and all of that, which are, in cryo chambers and all of that, which have their own massively beneficial health effects. Just using the cold water from your shower. You start with at the end of your shower, you turn the cold water on, you end it with 15 seconds of cold. Then you build it up to 20 seconds, 30 seconds, minute. So you build up to 2 minutes of cold at the end of your shower. And, to me, that's the one I struggle with the most still, because being from the parts of the world that we're from, I got away from the cold for a reason. I never liked it. So, but learning why is huge. So what that does is it turns back on a system in your body that we're all, we all have within us. And if you look at your, your blood vessels, your capillaries, all of the parts of your body that pump blood, if you took all those out of your body and lined them up, it's like 6,000 miles of, which is crazy, right? So that turns that system back on by getting that cold exposure, because the day we're born, what do? They swaddle you up with blankets, they put you in front of a fire, they clothe you, they keep you covered up. Your body wasn't equipped to do that. It was equipped to adapt, to adjust, to, so Wim Hof, another one that I just kept speaking to me in a different, it's not nutrition, but it's for health and longevity, is Jay Shetty. Jay Shetty,
like a monk?
Man, Think Like a Monk is another one that it's just his findings and what his knowledge and his wisdom that he shares in how much he's really, attributes it to all these healthy, lifestyles and living, just Think Like a Monk is awesome.
You can probably relate to him being a young guy going to college, running businesses, and then doing a full flip to becoming a monk, and then coming back into the business world and being successful still, but bringing the principles along and sharing them with others. So I guess you can maybe see yourself in there as well.
A lot, man. A lot of it, and it's a, and for him to be in monkhood and to break out of monkhood, because there's so much wisdom that these monks hold that they can't tell, because they're not out there spreading it. So for him to break away from being a monk to go share and spread this wisdom, man, it just spoke volumes to me. Another one, there's a lot of podcasts and a lot of different ones that I follow, that like Tom Bilyeu.
He's amazing.
He's amazing, right? So he started Quest
Nutrition.
And
so that's is it Impact Theory?
Impact Theory.
Yeah, he's so good. He's one of my favorite interviewers when he has guests on. I don't know that there's anybody that does the research more than him about their guests. And I believe that he gives the best introductions of any host ever. Like he'll do like a 5-minute introduction it's like poetry. The way you can tell he really did a deep dive into that person's history and what they offer. And it's he's very, he's like vulnerable, he's vulnerable as he talks about them, talks about them as a person and how they've helped and how that person makes him feel. And he always has like a little thing, to show how much they mean to him. Like he'll wear a Star Wars t-shirt because he knows the person's a Star Wars fan. He'll bring in a little accessory and they're like, how do you know about that? Like it was their favorite chocolate that's gone out of print when they were a child. So anyways, I love Tom. And
you hit the nail on the head with like, he is probably the most ready for an interview than I've ever seen. And he is so like, I read your book and I read this and that, and I got this quote, this chapter and this, and they're like, wow, like he really, like he didn't just skim, like he reads it, digests it, and like really brings it to the interview. But his whole side on, anything within there, and Jay Shetty too. I mean, like both of them in their podcast are really health oriented, and not just nutrition, health, full health, mental health, spiritual health, financial health, all of it. And they're huge, man. And then the last one, I don't know if you saw his last episode. I think it was last week or so, with Tony Robbins, and it was freaking amazing because Tony, he's got a new book coming out, which I'll be asking for my birthday, which is February 7th. On the 8th, he's got a book coming out called Life Force, and it's all on all of these new, what's available now and what's becoming available within the next 12 to 18 months, not in like 5-10 years, because who knows what the heck's going to be available. And then he gets into stem cell research and stem cell therapy, and it's stuff that I've been gravitating towards for a while now. And actually, I have, in college, I jacked up my knee, tore my meniscus, the cartilage in your knee. They provides the cushioning, so when my knee joints, now if I run, they hit each other, which I don't feel when it happens, but then swelling happens, right? So I'm like, I'm just gonna go get a knee replacement. I told my one doctor, my chiropractor, this. He's like, why? He's like, the structure of your knee is fine. You just need, some cartilage. And I'm like, yeah, what am I, there's nothing out there. He's like, go to Panama. I'm like, really? He's like, no, he's like, Panama, they have US doctors doing these stem cell procedures that, this person, that person, this person, that person have all been there. I'm like, all right. So I marked it down. He sent me the name of the place. So that's on my list to go do at some point within like the next 2 years. I need to put an exact date so it happens and put it out to the universe. So then I heard about Panama again through someone a few months ago. And listening to this interview, Tony talks about going snowboarding, tearing up his rotator cuff, and going to the top doctors and surgeons that he has access to because he's Tony. And
yeah, he has a net worth of $500 million, so he can afford the greatest.
It's not even the net worth, it's the network that he has, right? So he has the ability to pick up the phone and call anyone,
Joe Rogan's always talking about the stem cells as well. So a lot of
absolutely. So then he says that he talked to his doctors. They're like, yeah. He's like, what's the prognosis like? What is it looking like? Recovery time, everything. Each one of them said, roughly 4 to 6 months. He's like, yeah, but all my friends have ever had this surgery, man, their shoulders still jacked up. They don't have full range of motion. He's like, no, there's got to be a better way. Let me talk to my holistic people. Someone told him about stem cell down in Panama. So he goes down to Panama, has stem cell, basically IV drip. They don't even just put it right into where they think. They put it into your blood. It does its thing. First day, he's like, I really didn't feel much. Second day, super tired. Third day, fully recovered. Not only did that recover, his spinal stenosis and another, like in his arthritis in his hips or whatever, gone. I'm like, all right, I'm going.
Yeah.
So it's just, and then also within there, he was talking about how the Pope has a stem cell conference every 2 years. I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. So I look it up. Yeah. The Vatican puts out this big health conference every 2 years, and stem cell being like the main thing for like the last 10 years. I'm like, that is crazy, man. But listen to that interview with Tom and Tony, because it's one I've listened to 3 times now, and
it just came out.
Yeah.
You know what? You know how I know that? What's funny is you mentioned Tony has a new book, so I didn't know that, but that someone has something that they're launching when they start doing the tours of the podcast. So for example, I just noticed that Tony was on the Tim Ferriss podcast from the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah.
He was just
another biohacker.
Yeah, he was just on the Tom Bilyeu, the Impact Theory. He was just on the School of Greatness with Lewis Howes. So I'm wondering why Tony is on the promotion train, and it all makes sense with the new book. So you could, if you've listened to it 3 times, you should probably check the other 2, because you'll get at least like a slight variation of that interview from different minds asking different questions.
Absolutely.
I guess to save you from listening to it another 3 times, the exact same.
No, it was the reason I did it was because the first time I was in the car. Second time, I was walking on the beach. Third time was actually sitting down and writing out the doctors' names that he was talking about, the different procedures, the statistics. We come from, again, the same school of teaching, documentation beats conversation all day long. So when he starts spitting out stats and numbers, I'm like, I want to write these down, because, that means the most to me in, what it really is. Anybody can sell anything, but when you're talking about, specific numbers of people or how long things took, because someone's like, well, how long did it take? Is it instant, or is you got to keep going back? I'm like, I'm not sure. And then I went back and listened again. He's like, day 1, this happened. Day 2, that happened. Day 3 happened. Boom, done. I'm like, cool.
You're talking about the coincidences of hearing about stem cells here and there. And man, I keep hearing that if coincidences are happening for you, it means you're on the right track. Like you keep getting these signs from the universe to keep going. And like the help is on its way, and the right people are coming into your life, and the right opportunities. So check out these coincidences real quick. So I started going to a therapist during the last, 2 or 3 months, just because for me, isolation is not good as like an extrovert and a social person. And for me, networking is everything. That's the oxygen and the lifeblood. So I started going to a therapist, and the first session, she goes, I think you should read The Untethered Soul. And I'm like, why does that sound familiar? And maybe a month before that, I was in Saskatchewan for a funeral, and my aunt saw that I was reading like a book a day while I was there. And she goes, oh, I think you'd really like The Untethered Soul. So I had just read that a month before the therapist says you should read that. Then she goes, wait, I think you should read a book called The Celestine Prophecy. And I had read that years before I was into personal growth. I'm like, what is this book? Right. So I read that again. And then one of my last guests was like an intuitive tarot reader. She's amazing. Like she just looks at me and knows everything. Yeah. And in that interview that I had, she goes, something's telling me you should be reading the Celestine prophecy. I'm like, what is going on? So I had read it again. And then last but not least, the therapist keeps telling me about the Wim Hof method. So she keeps saying, are you familiar with him? I'm like, yes, I'm very familiar with him. So I've been doing the version of his book. He has an online course where it's, instead of reading the book, it's like him giving you lessons for a multi-month course. So I've started the course.
Love it.
And then the last 3 books I've read since starting that course, they've all referenced the Wim Hof method. So one was like the comfort crisis, saying that we're too comfortable. That's what's wrong with us.
Right.
We need cold exposure. We need
to be uncomfortable.
The challenge. That's what's ruining us. Is life is too good. You need to,
it's too easy.
You need to add some challenges. You need some discomfort to know you're alive. So this is showing me that I am supposed to do the Wim Hof method. I am supposed to read these specific books. So thank you for coming in and being that, like, yet another reinforcement that I'm on the right path. So
you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's whatever we need in life. It's right there. It's showing up. It's paying attention to all of those signs. Everyone's looking for signs, but they're not paying attention to the ones that those signs are already there. So. And you don't have to try to like line them all up and do all of that.
What is it? The when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, something like that. So
100%.
The student's ready. Dom, I'm ready. I'm ready for whatever.
It's it, and it's it goes back to Steve Jobs' commencement speech. I believe it was to Harvard.
Connecting the dots.
Yeah,
you can connect the dots. Yeah,
you can't connect the dots forward. You can only connect them backwards. Everybody tries to connect everything forward, and that's not how it works. You can only look back, and and again, we connect those dots. Is that really how it happened, or why it happened? Maybe or maybe not, but it's never forward. You just have to know that you're doing the right thing. Pay attention to those signs and to those things that keep popping up. They don't just keep popping up for a reason. They're there to help guide you and to show you, back to the stem cell for me, Wim Hof for you, just in this quick couple minutes, the last few minutes, there's a reason, same with Wim Hof for me. Like I read, same type of thing. I read a book that referred to him. I didn't really know much about him. A couple of my trainers, they were doing this Wim Hof challenge or some 30-day challenge, whatever. I'm like, you guys are crazy, whatever. And then I read his book. I'm like, wow. No, actually I read Breathe. Breathe is another amazing book. And I mean, amazing. And it got a lot of information, but it goes back to the history of like breathing in our jaws and how, the shape of our faces are and why it is. Back in the day, we used to have to chew and crunch on everything, and then heat was discovered to heat up food, and then now all of a sudden everything's soft or softer, or we blend stuff and like we don't chew on anything. So our jaw lines have actually shifted and changed. And he went back to like studying skulls that were buried from thousands of years ago and measuring dimensions and how many teeth are in their mouth.
Those are the facts that you're looking for, Dom.
These are again, back to documentation, right? You can have all those cute conversations about whatever you want and draw those lines of however you think. But when you go back to that, like these are, so anyway, he referred to back to Wim Hof and Wim Hof method. I'm like, so that's why I was like, I wrote, okay, next book, Iceman, Wim Hof. I'm reading that book. And then I got really like, how does the world not know about this man? It just blows my mind. How does the world not know about Jim Rohn or, some of these, Zig Ziglar, like all of these like thoughtful people that have these ways of thinking and knowledge that, why is it not shared with everybody, man? So there's so many of these, again, back to the conventional versus unconventional. And I stay in the unconventional path because I don't want to end up like everybody else. I don't want to be the one who's, struggling for my life and my health in my 50s and 60s and 70s or 80s. Because I train people that I have two of my clients are 88 and 87.
Wow.
And the stuff that they do on a daily basis, forget what they do coming to the gym. Actually, if they showed up to the gym and they're 88 and 87 years old, is powerful. 70s, powerful. 60s, powerful. Because I'm like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever, looks a lot different if you take care of your health versus don't take care of your health. Way different. I want to be the ones that are, 88 years old and still, doing some sort of exercise or working out, because you can.
With Wim Hof, there's a fine line between genius and crazy, and he kind of straddles it, where you're like, this is like a wild man, Is he crazy? Sometimes he seems pretty crazy, but there's that thin line crazy, where you have to be crazy enough to come up with these new ways of thinking that have never been done, right? So it's like, I'm sure Einstein with his theories seemed pretty insane until they're proven true. And then you just cross the line from, crazy or insane to genius.
Yeah, no, 100%. All of them. I mean, across the board, whoever you look at. And it's like, it takes you, again, back to not going down that conventional path, following the crowd. You kind of know what you're going to get if you go that route. If you go that way and you stick to that path and stick to, your gut and like your intuitions, just keep going down that path and you'll find the right things.
So we're pushing 2.5 hours already, and
might need part two.
Yeah. So normally I'm used to seeing you in person every 3 months or so as we go to different events and build our business. So I haven't seen you now in probably 2 years since the pandemic. So it's just good to catch up, as friends more than anything, doing an interview. Maybe a couple things we can touch on as we wrap up. We could touch on Think and Grow Rich quickly. We're both in a Think and Grow Rich, what is it? Not study group, a book club kind of thing. And, it's my 5th time reading it. I know it's multiple times that you've read it. So let's just quickly touch on Think and Grow Rich. And then maybe you wanted to bring up cryptocurrencies. What is it, and why should people be paying attention to this? Is it a fad? Is it not a fad? Is it a great investment? So maybe Think and Grow Rich. So I got my copy here. This looks like the Bible. You'll be impressed. It's my Bible version of Think and Grow Rich. It's a beautiful, I've highlighted like the entire book. There's yellow going through it. Why is Think and Grow Rich such a monumental achievement? And why should people be reading it and reading it multiple times? Mr. Nelson loves to say the average millionaire and billionaire has read Think and Grow Rich 11 times. So I'm halfway to the 11, and that's where the billionaire status will kick in. So. Oh, you got the nice new one.
Can't get it in there we go. There. This one is this book, Think and Grow Rich, was actually passed along to me about roughly 10 years ago. So I had a buddy that I was going to, that I grew up with, that we're going to go into business and do some things together. And he's like, everything sounds awesome. Like, let's keep this conversation going. He's like, but have you ever read Think and Grow Rich? I'm like, no. He's like, have you ever heard of it? I'm like, never. He's like, that's the craziest thing. He's like, I had neither. He goes, but if we're going to do any sort of business together, he's like, I'm going to send you the book, read it. And then if you still align with everything in the book, he's like, we can definitely do business together. And I'm like,
smart man.
Oh yeah. Like I'm like, who's he think he is? Blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, in my head again, read the book, and I'm like, this is crazy. Why isn't this, given in, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, like, and read through every year throughout. So then, a few years passed or so, and then I meet Mr. Nelson, and, it was one of his highly recommended books. So I'm like, what books do you recommend? And that was one of the first ones he had mentioned. And he said, read this book and, let me know. He's like, dive into it, take your time. So again, I read it, and then I started hearing the stats and the numbers of, the average multimillionaire, billionaire has read it 11 times. I'm like, okay, I'm on 2. I got to get going. I got to read this again and again. And it just, the principles and the the success principles that he teaches, they're not, these aren't voodoo or magic, whatever. They just are, and within this book, if you've never read it, whoever's listening, Think and Grow Rich, as Joel alluded to, this is my Bible. When I went to my first client, or said one of my main mentor business clients that I was training at the time, after the first time I read it, I'm like, have you heard of this book? He's like, exactly. He said, oh, that's the Bible. He's like,
Bible of personal growth. Yeah.
It's a Bible of personal growth. It's the Bible of business. And he's like, if you don't, he's like, if you don't accept these into your beliefs, he's like, you're gonna have a tough time building a big business, and in your personal development will struggle a bit. And I'm like, really? So then, I heard about it again. I read it again. Then I heard the stats and the numbers on that, and then listening to Bob Proctor talking about how
that's all he talks about. That's all he's taught for whatever 40 years.
He reads it every day for the last 50 or 60 years or something like that. It's been part of his, his daily habits. And, again, back to it. If you've never read the book, pick it up and read it, because it's powerful. I mean, in so many ways. And, it has all the answers, they're all right there in that book. And I say, it's the same thing I say with the actual Bible. If you want all of the answers, how to make life the most amazing life possible, and to not overthink things, just do the basics. They're in both of these books. And my daughter laughs at me because she's like, wait, because I'll say, tomorrow night at 5 or whatever, like I have, my book. I don't want to say club, but this good, whatever. But I'm like, she's like, book club. She's like, you're in a book club. I'm like,
my tough dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's powerful.
That's funny. So for those that aren't familiar with the backstory, it's Napoleon Hill was this broke nobody, and he met up with Andrew Carnegie, who's one of the wealthiest men of all time. And Andrew Carnegie says, you want to know how to build wealth? I'm going to give you a 25-year mission, a 25-year task, where I will give you access to the 500 wealthiest people in America, and you can interview them and take all your lessons, put them in a book, so that information can get passed on to generation after generation, and everyone has a chance from scratch, regardless of their background, to build wealth, to build a life that's worth living. And what happens is this broke guy, Napoleon Hill, takes on this that's like your entire life. He right. did an entire life commitment, and he went from being broke to using his own principles and becoming insanely wealthy. And it becomes the best-selling personal growth book of all time. And yeah, if you were friends with the 500 wealthiest people of all time, you would become wealthy as well, because their habits, their beliefs, their rituals, everything, it's worked for them. It'll work for you. So we boiled it down to, I believe, 13 principles. I could be wrong. And it's the main 13 things that he found across the board for the 500 successful. So that's our testament to why everyone should pick up the book. At this point, it's so old that I think you can just get it for free online. I think it's in the, what do they call it? The public domain at this point, where you can just go get a copy for free, or, buy your physical copy somewhere.
So, do both and get the audio.
and get the audio. So I guess the last thing before we wrap up is if you want to share whatever is on your mind about cryptocurrencies, why that's a subject that's worth bringing up.
Yeah. And again, I think we need a part 2 for all of this. We could dive in again, but keeping it, again, back to keeping things very simple and keeping it to the basics. Cryptocurrency came into my life about during the pandemic. Perfect time for me to, I had all this extra time on my hands from not having to go deal with my gym and, do all of the things a gym owner has to do that people don't see. They think it's, all any business. They think it's all, glitz and glamour and fun, and this how amazing, but they don't see the bookkeeping that you have to do, the marketing that you have to do, the people that come in and, you know, my credit card got charged double, my credit card didn't get charged, I was supposed to put this on hold. I'm like, I got rid of all of that. So that's the cool part. And it gave me time back to really digest and invest in more knowledge. So I started just finding different YouTubes and turn my bedroom into YouTube University, and just started listening to, you know, the fundamental facts of like what has been going on since 2009, since Bitcoin was first, the inception of it, and then how it's the growth of it over the course of the time till 2020, when I first started looking at it. And then I started investing a little bit in it because, you know, a golden rule that we've been taught: if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. Meaning if you have something on the line and some money at stake, you're going to pay attention a whole lot more than if you didn't. So I started putting, you know, investing a little bit of money, then a little bit more money, and looking at it as a long-term play. Most people in crypto, what their problem is they watch the charts do this. It's super volatile.
They're trying to buy low and sell high. And
yeah, and you know, you can have different strategies, and I have built a couple of my own strategies throughout from other people's strategies. One is looking at it. When you invest, if you're looking at it as an investment, it's long-term. If you're looking at it as buy low, sell high, you're gambling. Yep. And that's okay. You just have to know what your strategy is, because after introducing many people to crypto, just to get in and start understanding that, you know, they'll text me, oh, when do we sell? Oh, do we sell now? No, if you're going to do that, you buy low, you sell high. You know, if it's down, you buy more if you believe in it and if you have the means to do so. But the easiest way I can explain, and I do explain to my clients about crypto, is I feel like I've already lived through this with the inception of the internet back in, you know, the early 90s. At that point in time, people were like, oh, I'll never, or even email. Why would you email? Write a letter. No, you're going to email. You got to email. Learn how to email. Okay. And then it was the internet. Oh, that thing, what? The internet, the World Wide Web, it's a fad. Yeah. Then it was like, store stuff in the cloud. I'm not putting anything in the cloud. Then it was apps. I'm not going to download apps. Smartphones. I'm not going to have a smartphone. You know, it just, the evolvement of it all just happened, you know, whether you bought into it or not in your thinking. You were already buying into it because you were buying these phones, you were buying these computers, you were buying the internet, you were getting, you know, all of these aspects of it. And it was blowing up and growing with or without you. And that's how crypto is. So that was the information part that was built on what they call Web 2.0, was all of the websites and the ways to communicate what we're doing right here on Zoom and all of this. And what cryptocurrency is doing is bringing the monetary side to it, like how to exchange money without having to deal with banks. You know, one of the main things, you know, it's not just about money, because it's about giving money or buying and selling stuff. It's more than that, but just to that basic principle of it. When you have when you make money and you put it in the bank, or you're trying to do a bank transaction, they're not 24/7. They're not 365 days a week. If there's a holiday, if you're trying to do a transaction, say I want to buy, you have some property that you want to sell me up in Ottawa, and you got a little parcel of land. I want to buy that parcel of land for 10 grand. And I go to the bank on Friday, but they're closed on Monday as well. So I have to wait Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then again, when they open on Tuesday to get my loan, then they got to wait a few more days. I got to sign all this paperwork to get my money, to get my money. I'm like, that
And they
doesn't
always
make,
have their hand in it, right?
and
There's
they have
always
their,
any transaction basically in human history has had a hand in it,
yeah,
taking fees. So
they're
it
gonna
cuts out the
take,
middleman, right?
they're gonna take their fees. They're gonna ask you 1,000 questions, what you're gonna do with your money, versus if, Joel has a crypto wallet and I have a crypto wallet and I want to send him, 10,000 US dollars or 10,000 um,
That's a
dollars
lot of
worth,
Canadian dollars, 10,000
right?
US dollars. That's like
or 10,000,
13,000 Canadian. I'll
right?
take it. I'll take the US.
Yeah,
Yeah.
10,000 worth of Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of the other cryptocurrencies, and he takes that as form of a payment, which we all will at some point. So again, if you're on here like, I'm not going to do crypto, you will do crypto. You will do digital currency. And then what I learned through all of it, back from the banking side of it, so that's called decentralized finance. And then you have many different aspects of it, but they're called crypto assets. You're actually owning assets versus, just putting your hard-earned money into the bank and then it just sitting there. And guess what they're doing with your money? They're investing it in crypto and in other, platforms of investing your money. They're making all the money off of your money versus you putting your money into some of these other projects. So what's happening now is, again, this whole new internet that, that's being built basically is all being built on what's called the blockchain. The blockchain is just a ledger of everything, and anybody can look up and see what transactions are happening in real time, as well as, they're building, if anybody's paid any attention at all to, hasn't been living under a rock, Facebook turned to Meta. They'd rename themselves to Meta. Meta is the metaverse. Metaverse is just another fancy name of saying, a virtual world. So with that, within that world, you're having, the VR and AR, virtual reality,
We
augmented
already have
reality.
all the esports, and
It's
it's already here,
it's already here. It's already been building underneath our noses. We just haven't really realized it. Crypto.com arena just is what Staples Center here in LA used to be. Crypto.com arena came in, bought it. Now they have the naming rights for 20 years for $700 million. Okay. FTX arena. FTX is another exchange like crypto.com or Coinbase. FTX, they have FTX arena down in Miami, where the Miami Heat basketball play. No one even knows this. If you watch sports at all, in baseball, Major League Baseball during the World Series, the umpires had FTX on their lapel. The field umpires, they all had FTX. I Google it. I'm like, no way. Yes, they've struck a deal, the umpires union with FTX exchange. So you got FTX arena, that Major League umpires were in FTX, crypto.com arena, Coinbase, which is the number one US exchange, they're on the NASDAQ. They're traded on the New York Stock Exchange. They don't just
let me help you with your point. The UFC just signed a major deal with crypto.com, and you see it watching yesterday. You see it in the corners.
Yeah. It's so, again, there's these things that are happening underneath our nose are big money plays. These aren't just like, these aren't advertisement plays. These are plays that are like here for ever, metaverse. Whatever you think about Mark Zuckerberg is your own opinion. What we will have to agree on, the guy's brilliant. he made a gazillion dollars off of, his mind, because he sees the future. What we don't see, he's been planning for, Oculus, which is the, one of the top brands for the VR play. Facebook bought Oculus 7 years ago. And at that point, no one really paid much attention. Well, now he's been building out this whole virtual reality world for the last 7 years. And that is just So that's a whole nother
Yeah.
side of it. It's just not trying to figure it out, just knowing that, it's going that way. And then you got, all the video games in the video game world, they're being built now on, on the blockchain and in the whole crypto space. So that's one space to really pay attention and look at. NFTs, everybody's, heard the word and the terminology. NFT, the easiest way to look at that is it's an asset that you actually own. And there's a ledger that says that Joel now owns, that artwork that's behind you. That could be an NFT. You actually own that piece. That's yours. You can buy it, sell it. You can sell it. You could loan it. You could trade it, but it's yours. It's like an autograph signature. That's an NFT of some form, but there's no real value to that. But if you actually own it and you're the one of a kind and you have a ledger that says it's yours, now there's value to that.
The
With
scarcity,
the music world,
scarcity and demand, I guess.
Yeah. So with all of it, it's just, being aware, pay attention, and just know that crypto is not a fad. It's not a phase. It's it's here to stay, and it's here to grow. I mean, if you look at, again, commercials or you got Matt Damon for crypto.com, you got Tom Brady for FTX, you got crypto.com in the corners of the UFC fights, you've got FTX on baseball, you got these are just signs for people to pay attention. And I say, follow the money. Follow the money. What's going on? You don't have to believe in it or completely understand it at this point. It doesn't matter. They're doing it with or without us. So pay attention to the trends and, the ease of use now to buy cryptocurrency is, you got MasterCard, Visa, you can buy it with, you can go on Venmo and buy it. You can go Cash App and buy it. You can, there's a million different wallets and platforms that you can buy cryptocurrency with. So
it seems kind of like counter to the point with the MasterCard and Visa, where the whole point is to try to get those people out of the transaction, right? And it's like, if people are using crypto instead of credit cards, they go out of business. And it's like, now they're buying the banks. It's like, we're trying to bypass the banks. Now the banks are getting into crypto and trying to bypass things. And then the credit cards allow you to transfer crypto, but I'm sure they must take a cut somewhere. Like, it's always,
there's fees.
They're trying to stay ahead of the curve,
They're trying to stay alive. They're seeing all of this, the transitions happening without them. And a lot of these bigger companies, what they do is they'll offer payment. Say you owe, $120 to your MasterCard. Well, now you can pay that payment with crypto instead of US dollars or Canadian dollars. You can use crypto to make those payments. Well, what they're doing, they're taking that money or that crypto and they're storing it. They're not giving it back out.
So I was going to say that's a positive sign that they believe like that they're actually investing in it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, and then you got one of the smartest men on the planet, Elon Musk, who just last year just purchased his first crypto, like he's just also now learning about it and really understanding and adopting it, so when you have players like Elon, players like Mark Zuckerberg, players like Mark Cuban, players like, you name the top, Tom Brady, some of the top people that they're in it, they're doing it.
They're not a bunch of dummies.
They're not.
Guys.
Yeah.
And you can Tesla, they accept purchase of a Tesla in crypto, right?
Yeah. Well, actually they rescinded that to you can buy Tesla accessories. So there's like 3 different things that you can buy, mirrors and like a mini
baby steps.
Yeah. Well, it's just, again, it's getting through the wrinkles of, how it's going to work on a massive scale of, and the biggest thing I believe with Elon, when they made that huge Bitcoin purchase last year for Bitcoin, there was no real exchange up to that point that you could actually make a purchase of that many and that much Bitcoin at one time, which was
It's like
hundreds of
1.5 billion or something.
yeah, I'll say hundreds of millions or $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Like before that there wasn't that much on one exchange where they could purchase that amount. But now you know, it's all shifting. The funny story real quick of that, I was first introduced, I was on a plane going back to Buffalo in 2013 for a rugby alumni weekend. And some guy sits next to me and my buddy, and he starts talking to us about crypto, or about not crypto, about Bitcoin, because people think crypto means Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is one piece of crypto, one very small piece, but it was the first. So in 2013, I believe you could get one Bitcoin for, it was about $100. So $100.
If we could only go back in time.
Right. So, for those that are listening, don't know anything about it or whatever, Bitcoin today, roughly it's down. It's about $39,000 for one Bitcoin.
The peak was what, 60, 55?
69.
Wow.
69,000. We're down to about 39, and people are freaking out. I'm like, it went from 100 in 2000.
It's 50% off. This is where you load up the truck.
This is when you back the truck up. You keep, and again, it's the long play. They call Bitcoin digital gold. It's a store of value, meaning like gold. You don't buy your gold to go melt it down to go make necklaces or whatever. You buy it because you have excess amount of cash that you want to put into an asset that's over time is increasing, versus put it into the bank and it just sits there and it
inflation eats it up anyway.
I'll say it actually devalues over time because of inflation. But crypto being the digital gold, Bitcoin being digital gold, over time, if you're looking at a 10-year, 15, 20-year play, it's going to be exponential growth within that space. And then all the other coins and everything else that's out there. It's fascinating, man. Like I said, I could talk for days about this.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by really intelligent people, where you're the average of the people around you. So when you have all these smart people, you're semi-intelligent as well. I remember probably 5 or 6 years ago, all my friends were getting into it and telling me. And at that point, I think it was $5,000 US for one Bitcoin. And I remember asking, does it make sense for me to just buy one Bitcoin for $6,000? They're like, yes. And then you look now and it's gone up to like 70,000. So luckily I was able to get in pretty early, of no credit to myself, but
but it's, and again, it's what I said, you just got to get in, you got to just jump in. And for those that are listening, know nothing about it again, or the ones that know a little bit about it, you don't have to buy one Bitcoin, which is 39,000 right now. You could start with $100 worth of Bitcoin. So you buy a piece of a Bitcoin, and, as I teach, it's like, it's all about percentages at that point. So if you bought $100 worth and it goes up 100%, it's gone up 100%. If you bought $10,000 worth and it goes up 100%, it still has gone up 100%. So it's a percentages of up and down. And, since then there's roughly, it changes daily. I mean, every day there's new coins that are created. So it's roughly like 10,000 different coins now. How many are going to make it for the longevity? Probably, 200 of those, 200 of the 10,000. And there's going to be more that come and go. And, it's, when you're looking at this stuff, you're looking at, use case. What can you use it for? 2, how long has it been around? So there's only a handful that have been around for 10 plus years. Bitcoin, actually Dogecoin, and XRP. I believe those are the only 3 that have been around for 10 years.
How long is it? Ethereum? That's one you hear about a lot.
2017.
That's not that long.
No. So, but with Ethereum versus Bitcoin, so they say Bitcoin or Ethereum is digital silver. If you look at them in the store of values. But Ethereum has outperformed Bitcoin's performance since its inception. Meaning, if Bitcoin went up 200% over last year, Ethereum went up more than 200%.
Yeah.
And the year before.
The introduction of Bitcoin took a lot longer to hit
Correct.
mass than Ethereum. Right?
Correct. And they do different things. So Bitcoin is truly a store of value. Ethereum has its coin, which is a store of value, but also has the platform, which everything is built on, which is like the internet. So on it, you have everything being built from, like I said, decentralized finance. So the banks are built on it. The wallets, where you hold and store all your money, those wallets are built on it. NFTs, they're all built on Ethereum. There's every play on it is the gaming, all the new websites and everything is built on Ethereum. And it's start paying attention.
It's exciting.
Just dive in, and it's exciting. Bitcoin, what was the Bitcoin Millionaires? Good book.
Okay. Yeah, they talk about Bitcoin billionaires.
My bad. Yeah. Bitcoin Billionaires. Fascinating book.
The Winklevoss twins that were a part of the social, the social
Facebook.
network, but Facebook. Can you believe it? They're at the start of Facebook and they're at the start of crypto.
Have you read that book?
No.
Read it. Put it down, because it's super fascinating. You get to learn a whole lot more about them. They're fascinating. And if you've only watched the Facebook and the Mark Zuckerberg, depiction of the Winklevoss twins, you think that these guys are like, not very bright, or they're
bullies or dummies.
Bullies or whatever you want. Well, you got to remember who wrote that and who. So when you hear their side of the story, and then, like you said, they started Facebook, and then they, got bought out, kicked out, basically took their money, and literally they became VCs, venture capitalists, and nobody would take their money. They get right down to the last interview of like, okay, we're going to sign the deal with you. And then they would walk. They'd be like, no. Well, long story short, everything that they were trying to build, these companies, their companies were going to be put on the Facebook platform. They were building these games, whatever it is, for Facebook. They found out where they were getting their money, and they're like, no way, we're not taking you if you go with the Winklevoss twins. So then they got introduced to Bitcoin when they were on vacation and trying to figure out what they're going to do. And someone came up to them in Ibiza and was like, we want to tell you of this whole cryptocurrency concept of what's going on. Blew their mind. Then they just started buying up as much Bitcoin as they possibly could across the board. And they started their own exchange called Gemini. Read the book. It's fascinating. Then there's several other ones that just blow your mind.
So we're about to hit the 3-hour mark. So this is the official longest episode that we've ever done. The first one to crack the 3-hour mark. We're getting into Joe Rogan interview territory here with over 3 hours. Final question. If you could go back in time and you could sit down with your 10-year-old self, what advice would you give that 10-year-old self? Everything you've done in your life, all the experiences, the challenges, the successes and failures, what advice are you whispering to your 10-year-old self?
I'd have to say, follow your gut. Always have a teacher or a mentor in your life. Because we're only going to get so far in your life with the knowledge base that you have currently. And, I'm a firm believer in that. It's if you don't have someone in your corner who you can either look up to, either them as a person or them as what they've done in their business or their life, you're only going to get so far. To be honest, truthful, ethical, always. It may not be, might not be the easiest sometimes to have to admit something you did wrong or that you, but admit it, step up and just keep moving on. Take care of your health. And I think that comes back to this whole interview, especially with this whole COVID craziness. It's like, if this hasn't been the biggest wake up call to human society, that, you know, the healthier you are, the better chance you have of surviving this thing, is like beyond me. Because, you know, without your health, you have nothing. You know, and we say your health is your wealth, and that's not just a cliche. That is 100% the truth. So those are the basis, man.
That is good advice. Your 10-year-old self is lucky to get that advice from you. So, Dom, thank you so much for your time. 3 hours. I mean, that's a long period of time. It flew by. Thank you for being a source of positivity and support over the last 4 or 5 years or so. Thank you for all the tips and tricks and the advice when it comes to health and nutrition. You've been extremely helpful, and you know, hopefully we can catch up in person soon. Every winter I normally take off somewhere hot, Mexico, maybe California. Hopefully some point soon I can go visit.
Escape, brother. Get out. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the interview, and it's been a whole lot of fun. And anytime, let's do it again.
Amazing. All right, to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging tight for 3 hours. We appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, guys.
Awesome.
I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I'd love to hear from you guys. My goal is to grow this podcast organically, where you're giving me feedback on topics you'd like me to cover and guests you'd like me to interview. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Joel Martin Mastery. Joel is Joel, and on Twitter at Joel Mastery. So I am done. I am complete. I approve this message, and I'll see you on the next episode.